Chapter 4265. Whoosh, whoosh. Shock. The sound of people tearing through the air resounded all over the sky. Nearly 100 teams around the Blackbone wasteland, numbering nearly 1,000 people, all flew up and surrounded Zhuowen's lonely figure like a flood of fierce beasts. A series of dazzling and terrifying attacks were launched against the momentum. They swooped down like ferocious dragons and slammed into the figure. Boom rumble. Divine power of various colors poured down, forming a terrifying torrent of divine power. It was mighty and shocking. The range of the torrent of divine power was extremely vast. The surrounding thousands of miles were enveloped by this terrifying divine power torrent. The earth shook and the sky changed color. After Zhuowen's figure was completely engulfed by the joint attack of the crowd, several figures appeared from the dense forest outside the Blackbone wasteland. The two people in the lead were a man and a woman. These two people were Black Lotus, Jiyu Xuandao, and Rong Shuyao. Ever since they parted ways with Zhuowen, the five of them had teamed up to explore the depths of the Wujin Mountains. They had gained quite a lot. It was only when they received the order to kill Zhuowen from the 7 city lords that they were shocked and began to contact Zhuowen, hoping to meet up with Zhuowen and help him. However, what made them feel helpless was that Zhuowen did not reply to their messages. It was only when Zhuowen arrogantly declared in the abyssal bone wasteland that they were able to confirm his whereabouts. Because they were located in the depths of the Black Gold mountain range, it took them so long to arrive at the abyssal bone wasteland. When they arrived, they saw the scene before them. Their complexions all turned pale. "No, we're still too late. Fellow Daoist, he." Reprimand Dao clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were about to crack. He was a person who knew how to repay kindness. If not for Zhuowen lending him a helping hand, it would be impossible for him to successfully break through the universe grand tribulation. But now, Zhuowen was surrounded by thousands of elites. His entire body was submerged in the terrifying joint attack. How could he survive? All those that were able to enter the second stage of the Grand Hunt were elites amongst geniuses, and their strengths were extraordinary. Even a world tribulation expert would be heavily injured by the joint attack of so many people, let alone Zhuowen. Black Lotus's beautiful eyes flickered and she said coldly, "Master isn't dead yet. It's too early for you to cry now." Because Black Lotus' spiritual imprint was in Zhuowen's hands, if Zhuowen died, Black Lotus would die with him. Now, Black Lotus was alive and well, which proved that Zhuowen should still be alive. Even if fellow cultivator Zhuo is still alive, he is still in a dire situation. "We have to take some of the pressure off him," Jiyu Xuandao said in a deep voice. "Attack." Black Lotus nodded and attacked decisively. Her waist-length hair fluttered in the wind, and waves of demonic qi surged out of her body. She was both demonic and evil, and she was peerless. Black Lotus clenched her jade-like hand, and sharp fingernails grew from her fingertips. She casually clasped them on a cultivator's head. Then, the cultivator screamed and died with blood oozing out of his 7 orifices. At the moment Black Lotus attacked, Jiyu Xuandao also attacked. However, after he attacked, he turned his head and told Rong Shuyao to avoid the attack for the time being. Rong Shuyao looked at Jiyu Xuandao's back and smiled bitterly. He did not force himself to fight the enemies with them. Both Black Lotus and Jiyu Xuandao were in the world tribulation and were much stronger than them. Surrounded by so many elites, they could easily escape even if they were no match for them. But, if the 3 of them were trapped, they would definitely die. By then, they would become a burden to Black Lotus and Jiyu Xuandao. Therefore, Rong Shuyao and the other 2 decisively hid in a hidden place and waited silently for the result. "Ah, Black Lotus of the Limitless Demon Sect, why did you attack us? Jiyu Xuandao of the World Destruction Ridge Sect, you have also advanced to the World Tribulation. How is this possible?" No, originally, the attention of nearly 1,000 people was all on Zhuowen. When Black Lotus and Jiyu Xuandao took out their world of universe and rushed into the crowd, they were immediately caught off guard. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people were caught off guard and were killed by the 2 of them. Many of them were seriously injured and fell to the ground, screaming miserably. No. After experiencing the initial panic, everyone immediately calmed down. The cultivators below the great tribulation of heaven and earth retreated one after another. While the geniuses in the early world tribulation level who were hiding among the crowd also rushed out and faced Black Lotus and Jiyu Xuandao. Chen Yunliu of the Guanyun sect. I didn't expect you to advance to the world tribulation level too. Black Lotus couldn't help but take a few steps back. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent as she stared coldly at the young man in white. The Guanyun sect's foundation was similar to that of the World Destruction Ridge sect, but it was far from being comparable to the Limitless Demon sect, a top sect in the newer realm. Therefore, Black Lotus was quite surprised that this person could advance to the world tribulation level. Haha, even Jiyu Xuandao can advance. Why can't I? Black Lotus, I don't know why you attacked us, but what I want to say now is that we need to face a common enemy together. Now, Zhuoan has become the requirement to pass the world tribulation level. Only by killing him can we leave the Wugold mountain range. Otherwise, the 7 city lords will not activate the restriction formation of the Wugold mountain range. Chen Yunliu looked at Black Lotus with fear. After all, Black Lotus was the most powerful genius of the Limitless Demon sect. Chen Yunliu was not confident that he could defeat her at the same level. Black Lotus's beautiful eyes were cold as she said, "Forgive me, but I can't accept this. I won't let you kill Zhuoan." Her life was tied to Zhuoan's, so she naturally couldn't let so many people kill Zhuoan. If that's the case, then there's nothing more to say. Please help me. Chen Yunliu's eyes turned cold. He cupped his fist at the people around him and rushed toward Black Lotus. Chen Yunliu's movement technique was very strange and graceful. Wherever he went, misty clouds rolled and swirled around him like a whirlpool, obscuring his figure and making it difficult to see him clearly. At the same time, the people around him looked at Black Lotus with hatred. They took out their natal divine artifacts and began to interfere with Black Lotus. Black Lotus frowned. Although there was a big gap between the ancient star transformation and the universe tribulation, the joint attack of so many geniuses at the peak of the ancient star transformation was still a big threat to her. When Black Lotus fought Chen Yunliu, he would not be able to go all out, unable to bring out his full strength. Although Chen Yunliu's strength was not as strong as Black Lotus, with the help of so many people, he could force Black Lotus to retreat. It was only a matter of time before he defeated Black Lotus. At this moment, Jiyu Xuandao was stopped by another young man. This young man had red hair and a strong body. His body was burning with a raging fire. Above the young man's head, there was a huge universe world. In that world, there were volcanoes that reached into the clouds, erupting terrifying magma torrents. It was a terrifying scene. Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 4266. Fire Spirit of the Divine Fire Ancient Mana. Jiyu Xuandao looked at the young man in front of him with fear. The Divine Fire Ancient Mana was more powerful than the Annihilation Mountain sect. It was one of the forces closest to the 7 superpowers in the newer realm. While Fire Spirit was the most outstanding disciple of the Divine Fire Ancient Mana. His talent and strength were not weaker than the strongest geniuses of the 7 superpowers. Jiyu Xuandao, you surprised me. With your talent and strength, you can break through the Qian Kuan calamity. You are really lucky. However, you shouldn't have helped Zhuoan. You are digging your own grave. Fire Spirit of the Divine Fire Ancient Mana said. Lingzi looked coldly at Jiyu Xuandao, and the aura on his body suddenly became stronger. Fierce flames rushed from his body to the sky, and the surrounding temperature instantly rose to an extremely terrifying level, causing everyone to feel as if they had fallen into a furnace. Aren't you curious about how I could break through the Qian Kuan calamity so quickly? It is all thanks to Zhuo. Without him, I would not be where I am now. I am not an ungrateful person. I will never forget Zhuo's kindness. Now, I can only repay him with my life. Jiyu Xuandao said slowly. As soon as he finished speaking, he made the first move and rushed toward Fire Spirit. The terrifying calamity power turned into bolts of calamity thunder and blasted toward Fire Spirit. Humph! Stupid guy! Fire Spirit of the Divine Fire Ancient Mana said. Fire Spirit of the Divine Fire Ancient Mana sneered. He strode forward in the void and rushed toward Jiyu Xuandao. The terrifying flame of the divine fire ancient mana suddenly became much fiercer. The lava from the volcanoes in the Chen Kuan world above his head gathered into a torrent of lava and rushed out. When the shocking calamity thunder and the torrent of lava collided, fire spirit of the divine fire ancient mana and Jiyu Xuandao started fighting. Terrifying fluctuations spread out like ripples in the water. Although they were both in the early stage of the Chen Kuan calamity, Jiyu Xuandao's strength was much weaker than fire spirit of the divine fire ancient mana. Soon, he was at a disadvantage. Coupled with the interference of the surrounding people, Jiyu Xuandao was quickly injured. He was forced to retreat by fire spirit of the divine fire ancient mana and his injuries became more and more serious. Poof! Poof! No. After 10 breaths, Jiyu Xuandao was punched in the chest by the fire spirit. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell from the sky. Fire spirit looked down at Jiyu Xuandao coldly and shook his head. Now, it's not too late for you to regret. At this moment, Jiyu Xuandao's chest was caved in and his bones were shattered. What was worse was that the wound on his chest was burning with flames that were invading his body. Jiyu Xuandao was barely able to resist the invasion of this terrifying flame. He knew that once this flame entered his body, he would not be far from death. Regret. If I were to be ungrateful, that would be true regret. Jiyu Xuandao mocked. With at the same time, Black Lotus, who was on the other side, could not withstand the joint attack of the crowd and the harassment of Chen Yunliu, who was constantly launching sneak attacks. Chen Yunliu seized the opportunity and hit him, causing him to fall to the ground with injuries. Chen Yunliu, you coward. You are so despicable. So many people have joined hands with you, but you still don't dare to fight me face to face. You are the most outstanding genius of Guanyun Sec. Black Lotus said angrily. Black Lotus, I admit that I am not as strong as you. I am no match for you. No matter how you provoke me, it is useless. I will never fight you face to face. Chen Yunliu was still hiding in the clouds, his figure appearing and disappearing like a ghost. It was hard to track him down, and his movements were erratic. While he was talking, he attacked again. This time, he attacked Black Lotus's chest. This person was despicable. Black Lotus's eyes were cold. She wanted to block it, but when the crowd locked onto her again, she could not block Chen Yunliu's attack. She was forced to take Chen Yunliu's full attack. Poochie. Black Lotus spat out another mouthful of blood. She looked dispirited and her aura was extremely weak. Fire Spirit looked at Chen Yunliu coldly. He despised Chen Yunliu's despicable attack, but he did not say anything. Weren't you high and mighty before? Now that I am humiliating you, what can you do? Chen Yunliu said. Chen Yunliu's slightly mischievous voice came from the clouds. He quietly appeared behind Black Lotus again and was ready to launch another sneak attack. Black Lotus's pretty face was filled with shame and anger. This Chen Yunliu was too much. He took the opportunity to humiliate her. Seeing Chen Yunliu getting closer and closer, Black Lotus felt a chill. She could clearly feel a cold killing intent. This killing intent naturally came from Chen Yunliu's body. Without a doubt, Chen Yunliu was going to kill Black Lotus with this attack and completely eliminate him. Black Lotus naturally would not let Chen Yunliu succeed. Just as she was about to retaliate, the surrounding cultivators who were watching indifferently tacitly joined forces to launch an attack, causing Black Lotus to have no time to care about Chen Yunliu's killing move. Kill. As the killing intent came closer and closer, Black Lotus was forced to defend against the attacks of the surrounding cultivators. She was in complete despair. It is too easy for you to die in such a humiliating way. But don't worry, I will keep your body well. Didn't you reject me back then? I will ask someone to refine your body into a corpse slave and let you crawl under my feet forever. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Chen Yunliu's ferocious voice echoed in Black Lotus's mind. Black Lotus's mind went blank as she felt even more humiliated. Chen Yunliu, you dare? Black Lotus shouted. Lian finally couldn't help but shed tears of grievance. Shishi was a proud person. When she thought about how her body would be ruined after death, she found it hard to calm down and fell into deep despair. Why wouldn't I dare? Chen Yunliu's voice became more and more complacent. Then, Black Lotus felt a palm appear on her neck and pinch it with great force. Tears streamed down Black Lotus's cheeks as she struggled. A terrifying sense of suffocation drowned her, causing her vision to gradually become blurry. She wanted to use her divine power to resist, but found that the meridians in her body were completely sealed by this palm. She could not use any divine power at all. I'm really going to die. Lotus sighed softly. There was a trace of unwillingness and humiliation in her heart, but she couldn't help but think of that figure. In her gradually blurring vision, she seemed to see a figure slowly walking out of the deep pit in front of her and walking towards her. That figure was like a lonely martyr, running in the opposite direction from everyone, making everyone his enemy. Mars. Master. Black Lotus raised her head weakly, trying to catch the figure, but she just smiled bitterly. She knew that it might just be an illusion before her death. She really didn't expect that the only thing she thought of before her death was the man who beat her from heaven to hell. Suddenly, in Black Lotus's blurry consciousness, she seemed to hear Chen Yunliu's miserable cry, and the terrifying force on her neck was released in an instant. Black Lotus fell down weakly, but she felt that she did not fall on the cold ground, but in a warm embrace. She gently raised her head and saw a calm face. His steady breathing blew against her face, making her feel very comfortable. Master. Black Lotus muttered. Lotus softly muttered to herself. Suddenly, she hugged the man in front of her and cried with grievance. Zhuowen was caught off guard. He did not expect Black Lotus to suddenly hug him. Originally he wanted to let Black Lotus go, but after seeing the latter's scarred body and crying appearance, he hesitated for a moment and let her hug him. Chapter 4267. In the endless clouds, Chen Yunliu covered his almost broken right arm and roared in horror, "How is this possible? How can you still be alive?" Chen Yunliu's scream was very miserable and immediately attracted the attention of nearly 1,000 cultivators around. While, they were also surprised to find that the young man who should have died under their siege was now holding Black Lotus, who was covered in wounds. How is this possible? Nearly 1,000 of us joined forces to attack a universe tribulation expert, but he is unscathed. What kind of monster is this guy? Could it be that he used some kind of treasure to block our attacks? Everyone was shocked. The crowd found this hard to believe, and a huge commotion broke out. As they looked at Zhuowen, their gazes were filled with fear. "Ha. As expected of Daoist Zhuo. I knew he wouldn't die so easily." Jiyu Xuandao laughed happily. Hua Lingzi said coldly, "So what? Surrounded by thousands of elite experts, do you think the three of you can survive?" Jiyu Xuandao said coldly. Jiyu Xuandao's laughter stopped abruptly. Hua Lingzi was right. Although he believed in Zhuowen's strength, he also felt that Zhuowen was unlikely to be a match for thousands of people. Zhuowen slowly stood up, took out a healing divine pill, and let Black Lotus swallow it. He said lightly, "Swallow it and wait for me here." Black Lotus nodded obediently. When she swallowed the healing divine pill, she immediately felt refreshed. Whether it was internal or external injuries, they were all recovering quickly. She immediately realized that the healing divine pill Zhuowen gave her was at least at the first sky of the eternal realm. He didn't hesitate to let her take a divine pill of this level. A trace of warmth and tenderness rose in Black Lotus's heart. "You damned bastard, die for me." Chen Yunliu's resentful voice came out from the cloud mist. Then, the thick and heavy cloud mist came whistling over, wrapping Zhuowen's entire body. Zhuowen's eyes were suddenly filled with white. He couldn't see the surrounding environment at all. Moreover, this cloud was very special. It could even block divine sense and make it ineffective. "What a clown!" Zhuo exclaimed. Wen shook his head. With a stomp of his foot, endless evil energy erupted from the depths of the black bone wasteland, instantly dispersing the surrounding clouds. When the clouds scattered, Chen Yunliu had nowhere to hide, revealing his figure. While at this moment, Chen Yunliu happened to be a few meters behind Zhuowen. He held a milky white divine sword in his hand and was stabbing towards the back of Zhuowen's head. Ding! Zhuowen didn't even turn his head back. He gently pinched the tip of the divine sword with 2 fingers, and then with a flick of his finger, the blade of the divine sword shattered inch by inch into fine powder. A terrifying force that was like the tearing of silk rushed over invisibly, causing Chen Yunliu to let out a muffled groan. He spat out a large mouthful of blood and fell heavily onto the ground. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up, fire spirit, you go too. This kid is definitely not someone that we can defeat alone," Chen Feng said. Chen Yunliu was severely injured. When he fell onto the ground, he immediately shouted and called for everyone to attack Zhuowen together. As soon as Chen Yunliu finished his words, Zhuowen appeared in front of Chen Yunliu like a flash of lightning and stomped his foot. Boom! A terrifying explosion was heard, and the ground where Chen Yunliu was standing collapsed completely. The earth shook, and a terrifying crack appeared on the ground where Chen Yunliu was standing. It quickly spread to the depths of the Black Gold Mountain range. "Ah!" Chen Yunliu screamed. Chen Yunliu let out a miserable cry and stared at the cold-looking young man who was standing on top of him with one foot on his chest. An extreme sense of fear struck his heart, causing his entire body to turn cold and his limbs to become ice cold. "You talk too much nonsense. Just die," Zhuowen said softly. He abruptly increased the force of his right foot, and the ground he stood on completely shattered, transforming into a bottomless abyss. Meanwhile, Chen Yunliu was stomped to death by him, and his corpse fell into the abyss below. Zhuowen floated in the air and didn't stop. In a flash, he brought the severely injured Black Lotus and Jiyu Xuandao away from this place. At this moment, as soon as he left, countless terrifying attacks landed on the place where he was just standing, causing a terrifying explosion. "Zhuowen, don't you dare run away." After Zhuowen flashed out, thousands of cultivators chased after Zhuowen. The one in the lead was Fire Spirit. Zhuowen stopped not far away, holding Jiyu Xuandao in one hand and Black Lotus in the other. He stared coldly at the 1,000 cultivators in front of him and said, "Everyone, I don't want to kill you. I don't want to be your enemy. Now, all of you can leave now, and I won't blame you for chasing after me. As for the restrictive spells in the Black Gold Mountain range, give me some time, and I will be able to break them and let you out." Zhuowen knew that these 1,000 cultivators were all geniuses from the top forces in the newer realm. If he killed them all, he would become the enemy of the entire newer realm. While that was why the person who gave the order was so insidious. No matter what choice he made, he would have to face this kind of life-or-death situation. Zhuowen wasn't afraid of these 1,000 cultivators, but the elders behind these geniuses were a terrifying force that couldn't be underestimated. If there was no other choice, he didn't want to completely break with these people. "Are you afraid? It's useless to be afraid now, unless you kill yourself now. That way, we won't have to do anything." Fire Spirit crossed his arms and looked at Zhuowen coldly. There was a trace of contempt in his eyes. Single. He might not be a match for Zhuowen in a one-on-one fight, but with the help of 1,000 cultivators, he didn't take Zhuowen seriously. Even though Zhuowen said that he could break the restrictive spells in the Black Gold Mountain range, it was a joke. The restrictive spells in the Black Gold Mountain range were set up by the 7 city lords, who had paid a huge price to hire several array masters at the second sky of the Eternal Realm. This Zhuowen was nothing. How could he have the ability to break them? After the Fire Spirit finished speaking, the people behind him all agreed. They all wanted Zhuowen to kill himself. Zhuowen's face turned cold. He had already given these people a way out, but they didn't know what was good for them. Did they really think that Zhuowen was afraid of them? You don't want to take the road to heaven, but you want to barge into hell. Well, since you are so stubborn, I will send you on your way. Have a safe journey. Wen murmured softly. Suddenly, a blazing golden light burst out from between his eyebrows. Then, rays of blazing sword light shot out from between his eyebrows. Have a safe journey. We should be the ones saying that to you, Fire Spirit said. Fire Spirit sneered. Just as he was about to attack, a spiritual soul sword essence bathed in golden light shot out with a swoosh. Fire Spirit's expression changed greatly. He actually felt a terrifying sharpness and power from this godly soul sword intent. He was very cautious. Without thinking, he placed the universe world in front of him to block the spiritual soul sword essence. Crack, swish, swish. Suddenly, his Qiankuan world exploded into countless light shadows as soon as it came into contact with the spiritual sword intent. Chapter 4268. How is this possible? Fire Spirit had only uttered these last words before his glabella was pierced by the divine soul sword essence. His head exploded and fell to the ground as a headless corpse. This attack was too sudden. The excited crowd was just imagining how Zhuoan would kneel in front of them and commit suicide. However, Fire Spirit had become a cold corpse in front of them. When they looked at Zhuoan again, they saw that the divine soul sword essence that had easily killed Fire Spirit was now surrounding Zhuoan. There were almost 1,000 of them. Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Even Fire Spirit, an expert at the early stage of the cosmos tribulation, was killed by this divine soul sword essence in one move, let alone them, who had not even reached the cosmos tribulation. At this moment, everyone finally understood that what Zhuoan had said was right. He did have the power to kill all of them. Taoist Zhuo, we know we were wrong. Please let us go. That's right. You don't want to offend the forces behind us, do you? There are so many of us, and many forces are involved. If you kill us, you will offend all the top forces in the newer realm. You will lose more than you gain. Everyone was speechless. Some people hurriedly begged, and some even threatened him with their words. I gave you a chance, but you didn't know how to cherish it. What's the use of regretting now? You'd better regret it in the afterlife. Wen's eyes were cold. He suddenly waved his right hand forward, and almost 1,000 divine soul sword essences shot out like rain. Entire, shrill screams sounded in the sky. These people were only at the ancient star transformation. How could they withstand the power of the divine soul sword essences? The divine soul in their sea of consciousness was shattered by the divine soul sword essences. In the blink of an eye, nearly 1,000 people who were suspended in the air stiffened and finally fell to the ground. So powerful. Black Lotus and Jiyu Xuandao couldn't help but open their mouths wide. They were shocked by Zhuoan's move. They didn't even notice when Zhuoan put them down. Zhuoan Zedi's eyes were calm. With his spirit now at the cosmic Dharma stage, it was too easy for him to kill nearly 1,000 people who were not even at the cosmic tribulation level. He only needed to release an early-stage divine soul sword intent to completely wipe out most of the cultivators below the great tribulation of heaven and earth. Meanwhile, Wu Yingjie, Yang Yushan, Fe Ying, Dou Shunxiao, Yu Zhu, and Fan Lian were astounded when they saw the 6 enormous ravines at the center of the abyssal bone-desolate land. Although the 6 of them had been heavily injured by Zhuoan, they had not died. As a result, they had witnessed everything that had happened. What kind of monster did we encounter? I suspect that his strength might not be inferior to the geniuses in the top 3 of the outer world rankings. Dou Shunxiao spoke bitterly. Impossible. You don't understand how terrifying the top 3 geniuses in the outer world rankings are. Xuejiyu Chong once teamed up with our moon-slashing Saint Pavilion. This person's strength is the first I've seen in my life. Moreover, he once fought with a late-stage cosmic tribulation expert 3 times. He won all 3 battles and finally killed that expert, Yang Yushan said in a low voice. Everyone was shocked. They were shocked. They finally understood the value of the outer world rankings. Xuejiyu Chong, who was only ranked 3rd, could kill a late-stage cosmic tribulation expert. How terrifying was that? Compared to Xuejiyu Chong, Zhuowen's battle achievements were indeed somewhat insignificant. After all, the people Zhuowen had killed so far were only at the early stages of the universe tribulation. Furthermore, they were all rookies who had just advanced. What a pity. The geniuses on the outer world rankings entered the Black Gold Mountain range for their own purposes. They won't participate in our big hunt, let alone kill Zhuowen. Wu Yingjie sighed softly. Just as the 6 of them were sighing, their hearts suddenly tightened. They saw Zhuowen, who was not far away, looking at them coldly. At the same time, in the depths of the Black Gold Mountain range, a blood cloud quickly swept over. Soon, it appeared in the sky above the Blackbone Wilderness. Above the blood cloud, a black-clothed young man stood upright. His face was full of arrogance and unruliness. At a glance, he saw the piles of bones below, but his expression was very calm. It was as if these bones were very ordinary to him. Black, the young man in robes, landed beside Yang Yushan and looked down at her from above. He said indifferently, "Yang Yushan, you're a cultivator at the early stage of the universe Great Tribulation. You actually ended up in such a sorry state. This is too embarrassing." Yang Yushan forced herself to stand and respectfully stood behind the black-clothed young man. She said respectfully, "Yang Yushan greets Lord Shui Jiyu Chong." Wu Yingjie and the others were shocked. They didn't expect this ordinary-looking black-clothed young man to be Shui Jiyu Chong, who was ranked third on the Outer World rankings. They hurriedly supported their bodies and bowed to Shui Jiyu Chong. Shui Jiyu Chong didn't even look at the 5 of them. Instead, he asked Yang Yushan, "Where is Zhuowen?" Although Shui Jiyu Chong was asking Yang Yushan, his scarlet eyes were coldly staring at Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen's cultivation was only at the peak of the ancient star transformation stage, Shui Jiyu Chong could clearly sense the extraordinary aura coming from him. "Master Bloodbone Chong, this man is Zhuowen. He slaughtered almost all the contestants who participated in this great hunt." Yang Yushan seemed to have gained a lot of courage with Shui Jiyu Chong's support. She looked at Zhuowen, who was not far away, with resentment and anger in her eyes. Blood Shui Jiyu Chong's eyes suddenly sharpened. He looked coldly into the distance and asked, "You are Zhuowen?" Wen nodded expressionlessly. "What do you want from me?" Shui Jiyu Chong revealed a cruel smile. "It's simple. Hand over the map fragment you have. Then lower your head and apologize to Yang Yushan. If you do, I won't kill you." Wen looked at Shui Jiyu Chong mockingly. This person was really arrogant. They hadn't even fought yet, but he was already talking to him like he was giving alms. Wen didn't know where this person's confidence came from. "What? You don't want to?" Shui Jiyu Chong's eyes narrowed dangerously. His voice gradually turned cold. "Scram. Do it while I'm in a good mood. Otherwise, you'll die too," Zhuowen said calmly. Shui Jiyu Chong trembled with anger. Who did this person think he was? How dare he talk to him like this and tell him to scram? He was courting death. "You overestimate yourself. I'll kill you today." Shui Jiyu Chong licked his lips and took a step forward. A cloud of blood condensed under his feet and he rushed towards Zhuowen like a bolt of lightning. Blood. Just as Shui Jiyu Chong was about to reach Zhuowen, 2 figures suddenly appeared in front of him and stopped him. When Shui Jiyu Chong saw their faces, he frowned and said coldly, "Shuju, Ziyu? You dare to stop me?" The 2 figures were Shuju and Ziyu, who had just arrived. They saw that Shui Jiyu Chong was about to attack Zhuowen. Naturally, they acted together to stop him. "Shui Jiyu Chong, fellow Daoist Zhuo, is a good friend of the 2 of us. Shouldn't you ask for our opinion before you attack?" Shuju said calmly. "Blood." Shui Jiyu Chong's eyes darkened. He didn't care about either Shuju or Ziyu. However, if the 2 of them joined forces, they would be a threat to him. On the other hand, Yang Yushan and the others were surprised. They didn't expect that the 4th and 5th on the Outer Realm Heaven list would stand up for Zhuowen. It seemed that this person's background wasn't small. Chapter 4269. Zhuowen faintly glanced at Shuju and Ziyu. He had already sensed their arrival. At first, the 2 of them should have been hiding somewhere at the edge of the Blackbone Wasteland. They only appeared when Shui Jiyu Chong attacked him. Brother Zhuo, are you all right?" Shuju looked deeply at Zhuowen and asked with a smile. "Even if you didn't do anything, nothing would have happened to me," Zhuowen said faintly. Ziyu frowned slightly and said with some displeasure, "We specially came to save you. Is this your attitude?" Shuju waved his hand, indicating that Ziyu shouldn't talk too much. He smiled at Zhuowen and then looked at Shui Jiyu Chong. "Shui Jiyu Chong, for the sake of me and Ziyu, please stop and let Zhuowen off." Shui Jiyu Chong's eyes flashed and he sneered, "Shuju, I can give you face. I can give up this child's cheap life, but I want the map fragment on him. Make him hand it over." Shuju slowly narrowed his eyes and smiled faintly. "Shui Jiyu Chong, are you confused? Brother Zhuo doesn't know about the map fragment at all. How could he have obtained the map fragment? I think the 7 city lords want to use us, the geniuses on the outer realm celestial ranking, to kill Brother Zhuo. Xue Jiyu Chong, are you going to jump into such a shallow trap? Xue Jiyu Chong pondered. Xu Ju's words weren't unreasonable. Moreover, Zhuowen didn't seem to have said anything about the map fragment being with him. No. Xue Jiyu Chong wasn't someone who was easy to fool. He knew that Xu Ju was crafty and good at using strategies. There must be something fishy about this person speaking up for Zhuowen. He was very clear about Xu Ju's character. Xu Ju had always placed benefits above everything else. The so-called friendship was always placed below benefits. In his opinion, Zhuo Wen and Xu Ju's friendship wasn't deep enough for Xu Ju to protect him like this. Since that's the case, let this kid open his mind and let me search his soul. His divine soul memories won't lie. If he really doesn't have the map fragment, I'll let him go. Xue Jiyu Chong sneered. Xu Ju and Ziyu frowned slightly. This Xue Jiyu Chong's request was a bit too much. Soul-searching was a big taboo for any cultivator. If the soul-searching person had ulterior motives, the soul of the person being searched would collapse with just one blow. What? Unwilling? That means you're hiding something. The chances of the map fragment being with him is very high. Bloodbone Chong said proudly. Just as Xu Ju and Ziyu were hesitating, there were a few more sounds coming from the depths of Wujin mountain range. Only in the depths of the Black Gold mountain range, more than 10 silhouettes were approaching from 2 different directions. The cultivators in these 2 directions seemed to be on guard against each other. Harawu Ingje's group of 6, who were hiding far away, naturally saw the dozen or so figures, and their pupils involuntarily shrank. This was because they noticed that the dozen or so figures were all geniuses on the outer realm's heavenly list. All of their auras were terrifyingly strong. Fierce. Especially the 2 people in the lead. Their auras were as strong as the ocean, unfathomable and imposing. Blood Jiyu Chong frowned slightly. He looked at the 2 people in the lead and his face became very gloomy. Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian. These 2 guys are really fast. They're here now. Jiyu Chong sighed in his heart. Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian were both stronger than him. He didn't have much of an advantage against them. Murong Yongye's face was very handsome. He was tall and slender. He wore a golden robe and had 2 swords hanging from his waist. His whole body was shining with a dazzling and bright light. This was a perfect genius with both talent and looks. As soon as he appeared, he immediately attracted Yang Yushan's attention. Moreover, the latter revealed a love-struck expression. Even the calm Yu Zhu couldn't help but look at Murong Yongye a few more times. While on the other hand, Wei Yuntian's appearance was much more ordinary. He even looked a little ferocious. There were several scars on his resolute face. There were 9 divine swords on his back, flashing with different auras and brilliance. Wei Yuntian and Murong Yongye's styles were completely different. Murong Yongye was elegant and carefree like a gentleman. He was flawless and dazzling. On the other hand, Wei Yuntian was domineering and tyrannical. He didn't hide his aura at all. His long hair fluttered in the wind, showing his strength. How lively. The top 10 of the outer realm's heavenly list have all gathered. Yuntian floated in the air with his arms crossed. He looked at Xue Jiyu Chong, Xu Ju, and Ziyu mockingly. His domineering eyes also looked at Zhuowen from time to time. Murong Yongye smiled and said softly, "Which one of you is Zhuowen? Stand out." Zhuo Wen was expressionless as he slowly walked out. He raised his head. The first person he looked at wasn't Murong Yongye or Wei Yuntian, but Xian, who was in the group behind Murong Yongye. When Xian rushed here, he secretly transmitted a message to Zhuowen, telling him to escape. However, Zhuowen didn't listen. Xian naturally felt the gratitude in Zhuowen's eyes. He felt a little helpless. Zhuowen had missed the best opportunity to escape. It was almost impossible for him to escape now. You are Zhuowen, right? The 7 city lords have jointly issued an order saying that the map fragment is with you. Is that true? Murong Yongye said slowly. His voice was soft, but it was full of unquestionable meaning. If I say that the map fragment isn't with me, would you believe me? Zhuowen asked sarcastically. Murong Yongye said lightly, sometimes, rumors aren't groundless. I only believe what I see with my own eyes. I don't believe what you say. If that's the case, then why are you still asking me? Isn't it a waste of time? Zhuowen sneered. Murong Yongye slowly narrowed his eyes. Just as he was about to speak, Shuejiu Chong suddenly interrupted. Murong Yongye, Shu Ju said that Zhuowen is his good friend. If you want to do anything to Zhuowen, you have to go through him first. Shu Ju and Zi Yu's expressions changed. They looked coldly at Shuejiu Chong, who was gloating. They knew that Shuejiu Chong was doing this on purpose. Interesting. Shu Ju, so this Zhuowen is one of your people. Wei Yuntian glanced at Shu Ju with deep meaning as he spoke indifferently. Shu Ju's expression was ugly. This was really troublesome. Almost all the top 3 geniuses on the Outer Realm Heaven ranking were here. Even if he had a trick up his sleeve, he wouldn't be able to use it. This was something he didn't expect. How about this? Let's kill Zhuowen first and take the map fragment. Then we'll decide who the map fragment belongs to. What do you think? Shuejiu Chong suddenly spoke and looked coldly at Zhuowen. I agree. Rong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and the others all nodded in agreement. They looked coldly at Zhuowen. In their eyes, Zhuowen's strength was insignificant. Although they hadn't reached the Qian Kuan Great Tribulation, they could break through at any time. The reason why they didn't break through was mainly because they wanted to occupy the Outer Realm Heavenly ranking. There were great benefits to being ranked on the Outer Realm Heaven ranking. Every year, they would receive a lot of rewards from the ancient Heavenly Tao Academy. The higher the ranking, the more generous the rewards. He wanted to get the greatest benefits, so naturally, they weren't in a hurry to break through. Especially the top 3 geniuses on the Heaven ranking. Although their cultivation was only at the peak of the ancient star transformation, they were much stronger than most universe tribulation experts. In their eyes, Zhuowen's cultivation was indeed nothing in their eyes. Chapter 4270. Zhuowen sneered in his heart. He glanced at Shu Ju and Zi Yu and found that they had turned away unnaturally and were not looking at him. He understood that Shu Ju and Zi Yu had given up on him. No. Zhuowen did not find it strange or resentful. He only had a beneficial relationship with Shu Ju and Zi Yu. There was not much friendship between them. Shu Ju and Zi Yu would not risk their lives to go against the Sky List's top 3 for him. We'll give you a dignified death, Zhuowen. Kill yourself. Murong Yongye said lightly. Hurry up. If you die, we still have to compete to see who is more qualified to have that map fragment. Wei Yuntian said domineeringly. Zhuowen said indifferently, are all of you so-called geniuses on the Outer Realm Heavenly ranking idiots? Why do you all say the same things? You're always telling people to kill themselves. I'd like to ask you, who do you think you are? You tell people to kill themselves every time you open your mouths and call it a dignified death. You're really a bunch of self-righteous idiots. Wen's words were very light, but they were earth-shattering. They caused an uproar in the crowd. Hide. Wu Yingjie and the others in the distance were even more stunned. This guy was really daring. He actually dared to call people idiots in front of so many Skylist geniuses. Should they say that his courage was commendable, or that he was as stupid as a pig? Jiyu Xuandao and Black Lotus, who were sitting cross-legged and recuperating behind Zhuowen, smiled bitterly. They also felt that Zhuowen was a little too arrogant. Although they knew that Zhuowen was very powerful, they were more in awe of the Sky List. In their hearts, Zhuowen should only be in the top 3 of the Sky List. But they also understood that Zhuowen was already in a dead end. No matter what, he was going to die. He might as well enjoy his mouth first. Shu Ju and Zi Yu secretly shook their heads and sighed that Zhuowen was still too reckless. Now, he had really become the target of public criticism. Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, Shuejiu Chong, and the others' eyes were cold and murderous. They had always been high and mighty, and it had always been others who treated them with reverence and reverence. When had they ever been pointed at and insulted like this? Because you are weak, you have no right to resist. In this world, being weak is a sin. Wei Yuntian sneered. Could it be that you are very strong? Zhuowen smiled, his smile full of mockery and ridicule. The ranking on the Outer Realms heavenly list is the best proof. You're just a nobody. Do you think you can be compared to us? If we want you to die, then hurry up and die. However, behind Wei Yuntian, a silhouette suddenly dashed towards Zhuowen. It was a skinny young man wearing a flowery green brocade robe. When he swooped down, dense green clouds surrounded him. Amidst the green clouds, 3 gigantic green stars flickered and smashed towards Zhuowen. It's Poison Mist Go Yi, ranked 13th on the Outer Realms heavenly list. This person is extremely good at using poison. He once used poison to kill several experts in the early stage of the Qian Kuan tribulation. Master, be careful of his poison, Black Lotus quickly warned. Hee. My poison mist is unparalleled in the world. You're just at the peak of the ancient star transformation. You can't resist it. Go Yi sneered and waved his sleeves. The 3 poison stars smashed into 3 directions around Zhuowen, and countless amounts of poison mist spread out. Swish. At the same time, dark green venomous snakes shot out from the 3 poisonous stars and coiled around Zhuowen in a dense swarm. How dare you embarrass yourself in front of me with this kind of insignificant skill? How boring. Zhuowen's faint voice came from the rolling poison mist. Then, a terrifying sword essence rushed into the sky. The 3 poison stars surrounding Zhuowen were destroyed by the terrifying sword qi, and the poison mist was annihilated. When the poison mist dissipated, Zhuowen was seen standing in the same place, unscathed. He only raised his head slightly and pointed at Go Yi. Only a sword radiance burst out from his fingertip. It pierced through the void and pierced Go Yi's forehead. Hook. Go Yi's eyes widened. He stretched out his trembling right hand and touched his forehead. Blood poured out from between his eyebrows and finally gushed out. Hook. Go Yi could only say this word. His consciousness went black, and he fell from the sky to the ground. He couldn't be more dead. Murong Yongye raised his eyebrows and looked at Zhuowen in surprise. He didn't expect Zhuowen to be so capable. He actually killed Go Yi so easily. You have some strength. Although Go Yi is a good-for-nothing, he's still a genius ranked 13th on the Outer Realm Heaven list. You're lucky to be able to kill him, Xuejiu Chong said gloomily. Lucky? Maybe. Just in case you say I'm lucky again, come at me together. You won't stand a chance if you attack me one by one, Zhuowen said lightly. You're really arrogant. What right do you have for us to team up against you? I, Xuejiu Chong, can kill you. Xuejiu Chong couldn't stand it anymore. He jumped down and rushed toward Zhuowen. Although Xuejiu Chong looked down on Zhuowen, he didn't look down on him at all. He attacked with full strength. He was worthy of being ranked 3rd on the Outer Realm Heaven list. He had 9 natal lone stars. Every one of them was as red as blood. They looked ferocious and terrifying. While on the surface of each of Xuejiu Chong's natal lone stars, there were 3 enormous blood pythons. They were sticking out their thick tongues and staring coldly at Zhuowen. 9 scarlet life-bound stars circled around Bloodbone Chong. Bloodbone Chong shot toward Zhuowen like a blood-colored bolt of lightning, his blood aura surging toward Zhuowen. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. Xuejiu Chong's strength couldn't be underestimated. He could be said to be the most powerful ancient star transformation realm cultivator he had ever met. Boom! Zhuowen and Chong Xuejiu suddenly exchanged a punch. Instantly, a terrifying energy ripple exploded between the two. The shockwaves rolled out, and the ground cracked from the impact of their energy. Both of them groaned and retreated dozens of steps. They were evenly matched. Zhuowen looked at Xuejiu Chong in surprise. Xuejiu Chong was indeed strong. He couldn't get the upper hand in terms of strength. Xuejiu Chong was even more surprised. He didn't expect this kid to be evenly matched with him. The other geniuses on the Outer Realm Heaven list were also shocked. No wonder Zhuowen was so arrogant. He already had the strength to be ranked 3rd on the Outer Realm Heaven list. Even the arrogant Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian started to look serious. You have some strength, no wonder you can be so arrogant. However, you're still no match for me. Xue Jiyu Chong sneered. Jiyu Chong sneered. He was still full of confidence. Just now, he had only used an ordinary attack. He had not even used his trump card yet. He was confident that if he used all his trump cards, Zhuowen wouldn't be a match for him. Have you forgotten? I haven't released my natal lone stars yet. Zhuowen shook his head and released his natal lone star in succession. Huge stars broke out from the depths of the earth. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of stars were hanging above his head, orbiting in a strange way. Chapter 4271. How is this possible? How can someone have so many natal lone stars? Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared in disbelief at the huge cluster of stars surrounding Zhuowen. Bang! The stars were brighter than the sun and emitted a blazing light that was difficult to look at. I'll let you have a taste of the power of my natal lone stars. Zhuowen's voice was not loud, but it exploded in the sky like the power of the heavens. Only Zhuowen's right hand pressed gently in the air and the shocking number of natal lone stars surged forward in an invincible manner. From afar, one could see that these terrifying natal lone stars were like comets descending from the sky, leaving long trails of light in the sky. Zhuowen looked coldly at the shocked Xue Jiyu Chong. His eyes reflected the starlight and Xue Jiyu Chong's frightened face. During this period of time, his strength had been constantly improving. As a result, his life lone stars, be it in number or power, were rapidly growing stronger. He had not used his natal lone stars in a battle for a long time, so he did not know how powerful his natal lone stars were. Boom! 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 The natal lone stars streaked across the sky and smashed into Xue Jiyu Chong's body. Xue Jiyu Chong roared as 9 scarlet natal lone stars formed a line in front of him and began to rotate continuously, forming a scarlet defensive shield. Blood Jiyu Chong's strength was indeed very strong. The scarlet shield formed by the 9 scarlet natal stars was very sturdy, blocking the falling stars one by one. But yes, there were simply too many falling stars. They were endless, growing and multiplying endlessly. Like a tidal wave, they bombarded the Bloodbone revered sect's front. End. Cracks began to appear on the shield formed by the 9 scarlet stars in front of Xue Jiyu Chong. Crack. The cracks grew bigger and denser. The sound of shattering continued to resound in the sky. It was ear-piercing and terrifying. Bang! End. Then, the scarlet shield shattered and the 9 scarlet stars scattered in all directions. Xue Jiyu Chong spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. Boom! Boom! But the terrifying torrent of stars did not stop because of this. Instead, it continued to chase after Xue Jiyu Chong with unparalleled momentum. How some people felt a chill in their hearts. They had no doubt that even someone as strong as Xue Jiyu Chong would die without a doubt if he was hit by such a terrifying torrent of stars. Just as the torrent of stars was about to crush the Bloodbone worshippers, a terrifying saber chi descended from the sky and struck the torrent of stars. Following that, an even more powerful sword chi fell. One saber one and sword one's aura was like the sea, sweeping through the world and forcefully blocking the terrifying torrent of stars. 2 figures landed in front of Xue Jiyu Chong and looked at the young man behind the star torrent with fear. I didn't expect Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian to attack together. This is the second time they've joined hands. The geniuses on the Outer World's Heaven ranking list had already hidden far away. They were all shocked to see Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian working together. Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian had occupied the first and second positions on the Outer World's Heaven ranking list for a long time. During this period, they had only dropped their positions once. That was when Sakyamuni suddenly rose to power. Sakyamuni had risen too quickly. As soon as he appeared, he had challenged the top 10 geniuses on the Outer World's Heaven ranking list and had not tasted defeat. Most in the end, when Sakyamuni was fighting for the first position, Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian were forced to join hands. In the end, the 2 of them were defeated and fell from their pedestals, becoming Sakyamuni's stepping stones. This time, Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian joined hands again to face Zhuowen, who was not well known. "Are you all right?" Murong Yongye turned his head and asked Xue Jiu Chong in a low voice. Blood. Xue Jiu Chong's face was pale. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and glared at the young man behind the torrent of stars. "Thank you for your help. Although I suffered some internal injuries, my foundation is not damaged. I can still fight." After saying that, Xue Jiu Chong took out a scarlet divine pill and swallowed it. His chaotic aura immediately stabilized. "I didn't expect the two of you to help." Xue Jiu Chong sneered. Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian were expressionless. Murong Yongye said coldly, "Xue Jiu Chong, can't you see? Could it be that Zhuo Wen was not like that person? His natal star is almost the same as that person's. He has already formed the astral domain." Xue Jiu Chong's eyes narrowed. He could not help but think of that cold and arrogant figure. In the past, he had been completely crushed by that person's astral domain. "So, the two of you saved me because you want me to lend you a hand?" Xue Jiu Chong was not stupid. He immediately understood Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian's intentions. As everyone knows, an ancient star transformation cultivator with the astral domain is the nemesis of all ancient star transformation cultivators. If I, Wei Yuntian, and you fought him one-on-one, we would lose without a doubt. However, if the three of us work together, and with our years of hard work, we can defeat an ancient star transformation cultivator with the astral domain. Back then, Sakyamuni suddenly rose to power and defeated me. After that, he went through the great tribulation of universe. I regret that I can't fight him again, but this time, we must win. Even if it's 3 against 1, we must win. Rong Yongye tightened his grip on the hilt of his sword. His eyes were filled with madness. Clang. In the past, he had lost to Sakyamuni. It was a humiliation that he would never be able to erase. Now, he wanted to prove himself to Zhuowen. Murong Yongye is right. Even though I don't like Sakyamuni, that guy is too much of a monster. I'm afraid he's already far ahead of us. Coincidentally, we met a genius of the same level who has the astral domain. This is my chance to prove myself. Yuntian's eyes burned with the desire to fight as he spoke in a low voice. "All right. I'll work with you, but only this once." Gusu Chong took a deep breath. His eyes were filled with extreme coldness. He wanted to wash away the humiliation Zhuowen had brought upon him. He wanted to kill that bastard. After saying that, Gusu Chong waved his right hand in the air, and the 9 scarlet natal stars that had been sent flying were summoned back to him. At the same time, Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian summoned their natal lone stars one after another. Murong Yongye had 11 life stars, and they were all in the shape of swords. The 11 sword-shaped stars circled around his body, and they looked like 11 divine swords shining with starlight. Wei Yuntian had 10 natal lone stars. His natal lone stars were in the shape of blades. They were like gigantic divine blades that revolved around Wei Yuntian. The 9 divine blades on his back were violently trembling. Terrifying blade chi swept around his body like a storm. While Gusu Chong's 9 scarlet stars regained their radiance and circled around his body. He clenched his right hand, and a blood-red snake spear appeared in his palm. Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Gusu Chong are working together. When the onlookers saw the 3 of them, they could guess what was going on. They couldn't help but gasp. The top 3 of the Outer Realm Heavenly List were all extremely arrogant. For countless years, there had never been a situation where the top 3 of them worked together to fight against one person. Only the exception was when Sakyamuni had swept the Outer Realm Heavenly List. Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian had worked together, and this was the first time the top 3 of them had worked together. Chapter 4272. I really didn't expect that the 3 of them would put aside their differences and join forces. Is Brother Zhuo's threat really that great? Xu Ju's expression was very complicated. Of course, he knew how powerful Zhuowen was, but he only thought that Zhuowen was a little stronger than him and not much weaker than Xue Jiu Chong. Only yes, Zhuowen easily defeated Xue Jiu Chong. Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian even joined forces with Xue Jiu Chong to deal with Zhuowen. This was something that Xu Ju didn't expect. With the three of them joining forces, Zhuowen doesn't have any chance. Brother Shu, send a message to Zhuowen and ask him to give you the map fragment. That way, he won't die in vain. Ziyu frowned. Speaking of which, he didn't care about Zhuowen's life or death. The only thing he cared about was the map fragment that Zhuowen had. Shu Juju smiled bitterly. Brother Ziyu, do you think I didn't send a message to Brother Zhuo? It's just that he didn't respond to me, and with his personality, it's impossible for him to hand over the map fragment so easily. Ziyu was displeased. He secretly thought that Zhuowen really didn't know what was good for him. Boom. Finally, before the torrent of stars, the saber chi and sword chi that seemed to be able to cut through the sky finally couldn't withstand it and completely shattered into countless fine powder. Roll. The torrent of stars pressed forward with indomitable will, completely crushing Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shueji Yuchong. Kill. The fighting spirit in Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shueji Yuchong's eyes burned like fire. The three of their natal stars pushed forward together and fiercely collided with Zhuowen's torrent of stars. 3 after a person's natal stars combined, their power wasn't 1 + 1 = 2. Instead, it had undergone some kind of qualitative change. 11 sword-shaped stars lined up in a row, forming a giant star sword that traversed the sky. 10 saber-shaped stars lined up in a row, forming a domineering star saber. 9 The 9 scarlet stars suddenly emitted an endless amount of blood mist. The 9 scarlet stars arranged themselves into a skeleton, and the blood mist became the flesh. They transformed into an indomitable blood-colored giant. Blood the colored giant held the star sword in his right hand and the star saber in his left hand. He strode forward and slashed out the star saber in his hands. Saber chi and sword chi crisscrossed across the sky. Standing in the torrent of stars, they instantly cut the massive torrent of stars into several segments. However, the torrent of stars was not that simple. After a few segments of the torrent of stars were divided, they instantly passed by the bloody giant and merged into a powerful torrent of stars, attacking the bloody giant again. Boom! Boom! The huge torrent of stars collided with the blood-colored giant once again. The collision produced a very terrifying sound. For a moment, the two were entangled, and it was difficult to tell who was the stronger one. The moment the torrent of stars was entangled by the bloody giant, 3 figures crossed the torrent of stars and surrounded Zhuowen in a triangular formation, blocking all his escape routes. Zhuowen Xian stood where he was with a calm expression. He was not too surprised or afraid of the 3 people joining forces to attack him. When the 3 people were getting closer and closer, he slowly drew out the Taiyu sacred sword. He took a step forward and rushed toward Murong Yongye, who was attacking at the front. Murong Yongye held his sword with both hands. When he saw Zhuowen rushing toward him, his eyes became even more excited. He swung his sword with both hands, and a terrifying sword chi burst out. Clang! The crisp sound of metal colliding rang out. Murong Yongye's 2 swords and Zhuowen's Taiyu sacred sword collided. At this moment, it was as if time had frozen. The ear-piercing sound of metal rang out continuously between heaven and earth. Then, the expression on Murong Yongye's face completely froze, turning into horror and disbelief. At the point where the 2 swords collided, a terrifying force spread out. Murong Yongye only felt that his whole body was being torn apart by the terrifying force. With a muffled groan, he flew backward at an extremely fast speed and landed heavily on the ground. Like a stone stirring up 1,000 ripples, countless dust clouds rose into the sky, forming a dust wave that spread for hundreds of millions of miles. At the moment Zhuowen sent Murong Yongye flying with his sword, Shui Guzong and Wei Yuntian rushed from behind. Shui Guzong's blood-red snake spear swept out horizontally. Streams of viscous blood-red energy swept out and turned into countless blood-red pythons. Behind the countless blood-red pythons, the blood-red snake spear rushed toward Zhuowen's vital points at a tricky angle. Wei Yuntian's right hand flicked the fingers of his right hand, and the 9 divine sabers on his back all swept out, slashing toward 9 different parts of Zhuowen's body from 9 tricky angles. Zhuowen suddenly turned around and fiercely swung the Taiyu sacred sword in his hand. Terrifying sword chi swept out like a tidal wave. The 9 divine sabers and the blood-red snake spear all stopped for a moment, and then quickly flew backward, swept away by the rolling sword qi. Wei Yuntian and Xue Guzong flew backward one after another and landed heavily on the ground. The two of them were even more embarrassed than Murong Yongye. In the process of flying backward, they even spat out mouthfuls of blood, looking very miserable. Boom! Boom! 2 more huge pits appeared on the Blackbone Wilderness, and billowing dust rose up again. From the beginning to the end, Zhuowen had only made 2 moves, and the top 3 geniuses on the Outer Realm list were all defeated by him. Are you kidding me? Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Xue Guzong joined forces, but they were still no match for him. The faces of all the geniuses on the Outer Realm list changed. Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Xue Guzong were the top 3 geniuses on the Outer Realm list. Now, it was fine if the 3 of them joined forces, but they were defeated by Jiang Chen in 2 moves. Everyone's face was boiling hot. There was no doubt that Zhuowen's 2 moves were not only a slap to the faces of Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and all the geniuses on the Outer Realm list. When did the geniuses on the Outer Realm list become so weak? Wu Yingjie was almost in a daze, and he mumbled to himself as if he was dreaming. It's not that the geniuses on the Outer Realm list are weak, but this Zhuowen is too strong, Yang Yushan said bitterly. On the other hand, Xu Ju and Ziyu's eyes widened. They didn't expect this result at all. This Zhuowen. We still underestimated him. I'm afraid he's already comparable to Sakyamuni back then. Moreover, he broke Sakyamuni's record and forced the top 3 geniuses on the Outer Realm list to join forces. He even defeated the 3 of them easily. Xu Ju sighed softly. Ziyu's cautious expression finally appeared on Shroud's face. His gaze towards Zhuowen was no longer frivolous and indifferent. Boom! 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 Just when everyone was shocked by Zhuowen's strength, dark clouds suddenly gathered in the depths of the sky. Rumbling sounds constantly came from the depths of the void. Strong. A great heavenly might came from the depths of the void, causing everyone to turn pale with fright. This is the aura of the great calamity of heaven and earth. Is someone going through a tribulation? Everyone present was inexplicably shocked. Then, they were horrified to find that Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Xue Guzong, who had been shot down, were all going through their tribulations at the same time. Chapter 4273. At that moment, there were 3 huge pits in the Blackbone Barren Land. In each of the pits, there was a figure with a powerful aura. While they were Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Xue Guzong. I must win this time. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I must win. Murong Yongye's face was ferocious. His aura quickly became stronger like an unstoppable volcano. He knew that he could not afford to lose. He had already lost to Sakyamuni. He could not lose to Zhuowen again. Otherwise, he would have to live in the shadows of Sakyamuni and Zhuowen forever. His cultivation path would be completely cut off by the 2 of them. Wei Yuntian and Xue Guzong roared. They were unwilling and aggrieved. They were the representatives of the Outer Realm Heavenly List. If they lost, it would be a disgrace to the entire Outer Realm Heavenly List. Moreover, if they lost, they would also have an inner demon. Their cultivation path would be cut off from then on. Therefore they must win this battle. They could not afford to lose. The 3 of them had a tacit understanding. The moment they were defeated, they immediately began to break through. They had been accumulating for too long. They could break through at any time. The reason why they suppressed their realms was because of the generous rewards on the Outer Realm Heavenly List. While this victory would determine their future cultivation achievements, they did not suppress their realms anymore. Instead, they broke through to defeat Zhuowen. Boom! 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 Suddenly, a terrifying black hole appeared in the depths of the void. Extremely terrifying tribulation energy was brewing within the black hole. Taoist Zhuo, take this opportunity to escape. Once Murong Yongye and the other 2 enter the Great Cosmos Tribulation, their strength will undergo a huge transformation. They will be much more powerful than they are now. Jiyu Xuandao forced himself to come to Zhuowen's side and said, Black Lotus also stepped forward to persuade Zhuo Wenxian to temporarily retreat. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "They are so weak. Even if they succeed, what can they do? I can still kill them easily." Black Lotus and Jiyu Xuandao looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They stopped persuading him, but they were more worried. While the rest of the geniuses on the outer world heavenly ranking looked solemn. They avoided Zhuowen as if he was the plague. Here, if Zhuowen could force the top 3 monstrous geniuses of the realm beyond heaven list into such a sorry state, killing them would be no different from slaughtering dogs. How would they dare to get so close to Zhuowen? At the same time, Shuju and Ziyu quietly arrived by Zhuowen's side. Their gazes were filled with complicated emotions and fear. Zhuowen's strength far exceeded their expectations. "Brother Zhuo, we still underestimated you," Shuju said with a complicated tone. Zhuowen nodded expressionlessly and didn't say a word. This made Shuju and Ziyu a little embarrassed. "Brother Zhuo, according to our agreement, if you help us obtain the map fragment, we will fulfill your requests," Shuju said in a low voice. Zhuowen pondered for a moment and continued, "I can give you the map fragment, but I might have to change my requests." Shuju and Ziyu frowned. They didn't expect Zhuowen to change his request at the last minute. But they also understood that Zhuowen was indeed qualified to make other requests of them. As long as it wasn't too excessive, they could only accept it. "Zhuowen, aren't you going a little too far? We already agreed on it, but now you want to change it at the last minute," Ziyu said unhappily. Shuju hurriedly stopped Ziyu and asked calmly, "Tell us." Zhuowen said calmly, "My request isn't too excessive. According to your request, if I give you the map fragment, you intend to help me break through the great calamity of heaven and earth, right? Right now, I'm confident that I can break through the great calamity of heaven and earth in Wujin Mountain Range. So, this request is equivalent to nothing. You only need to change this request to help me break through to the middle stage of the great calamity of heaven and earth." Shuju breathed a sigh of relief. His calm face finally recovered. He smiled and said, "So that's your request. Of course, we agree to it. It won't even be a problem for you to break through to the late stage of the great calamity of heaven and earth." Ziyu's expression also improved. She said calmly, "Then you can give us the map fragment now, right? Your mission has been completed. There's nothing else for you to do." Zhuowen shook his head and said, "I can't give it to you right now. With your strength, you won't be able to keep the map fragment. Wait until we leave Wujin Mountain Range." Zhuowen wasn't a 3-year-old child. His agreement with Shuju was only a verbal agreement. If he gave them the map fragment now and they went back on their word, wouldn't Zhuowen suffer a double loss? "Zhuowen, what do you mean by this? Are you going to violate the agreement?" Ziyu took a step forward and said aggressively. Zhuowen snorted coldly. A surge of energy rushed out through his sound waves. Ziyu groaned and retreated in a sorry state. She then sat on the ground. You're going too far." Ziyu was so angry that her face turned red. A trace of hatred flashed through her eyes. "Ziyu, shut up." Shuju stopped Ziyu and then looked at Zhuowen with a smile. "Brother Zhuo, don't take it to heart. Ziyu is a straightforward person. If he has something to say, he will say it directly." Zhuowen sneered but didn't say anything. "Brother Zhuo, I understand your considerations. How about this? We won't ask you to hand over the map fragment now, but can you take it out and let us see it? After all, we still have some doubts about the order issued by the 7 city lords," Shuju said generously. Of course, Wen didn't mind. He waved his right hand and took out the map fragment. He waved it in front of Shuju and then put it away. Shuju's eyes were very sharp. He could see at a glance that the map fragment in Zhuowen's hand was indeed a completely different map fragment. Good. Zhuowen, you've done very well. Now, it's best for you to avoid the limelight. Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shueji Yuchong are about to break through. You won't be a match for the 3 of them after they break through. Shuju warned with a serious expression. No need. A loser will always be a loser. So what if the three of them break through to Chenkuan tribulation? They won't affect me at all. Zhuowen shook his head. Xu Ju frowned. He felt that Zhuowen was too confident, even arrogant. The top 3 geniuses on the outer realm heavenly ranking had broken through to Chenkuan tribulation at the same time. Their fighting strength would transform. He admitted that Zhuowen's strength was indeed very terrifying, but he didn't believe that he could be the top 3 geniuses on the outer realm heavenly ranking after breaking through to Chenkuan tribulation. Zhuowen, are you joking? You'd better not be so arrogant. I don't care if you die, but after you die, the map fragment will fall into the hands of Murong Yongye and the other 2. At that time, Xu Ju and I won't be able to get it. If you don't run, then give the map fragment to us now. You can do whatever you want. We won't care if you live or die. Ziyu couldn't bear it anymore. Zhuowen coldly stared at Ziyu. When did I, Zhuowen, need you to tell me what to do? Now, scram. Otherwise, I'll kill you too. Zhuo Jingyi's terrifying aura suddenly erupted. The surging torrent of stars that surrounded him began to lock onto Ziyu, as if it was ready to attack at any time. Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 4274. Ziyu's face was pale. She couldn't help but retreat in fear. Even Murong Yongye and the other 2 weren't Zhuowen's match. He was only 5th on the outer realm celestial list. If Zhuowen attacked him, wouldn't he be killed in an instant? Don't be angry, Brother Zhuo. Brother Ziyu spoke too quickly. I'll take him away now. Ju Ju hurriedly came to be the mediator. He pulled Ziyu away from Zhuowen. After retreating to a safe distance, the 2 of them didn't look too good. This Zhuowen doesn't know what's good for him. He defeated Murong Yongye and the other 2 who haven't broken through. Does he really think he's something? After the 3 of them break through, they'll definitely kill Zhuowen. At that time, the map fragments will have nothing to do with us, Ziyu said angrily. Xu Ju's face was gloomy. Let's not act rashly. Right now, you and I aren't Zhuowen's match. If he doesn't give us the map fragments, we won't be able to take them back. I hope that Zhuowen really has the strength to deal with Murong Yongye and the other 2 after they break through. Ziyu sneered. You think too highly of him. Boom. Boom. At this moment, the sky above the abyssal bone wasteland was filled with terrifying tribulations. All kinds of tribulations descended from the black hole. Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shueji Yuchong went through their tribulations almost at the same time. Endless tribulations completely drowned their figures, making it impossible for the surrounding people to see the specific situation inside the tribulations. Zhuowen stood silently on the other side with his hands behind his back. He calmly watched the tribulations of the 3 people and secretly shook his head. The tribulations of the 3 people were much more terrifying than the tribulations of ordinary cultivators, but in Zhuowen's eyes, it wasn't enough. It was only a little stronger than the tribulations of his ancient star transformation. Clang. After the black hole in the depths of the void sent down the last tribulation, the rolling dark clouds in the sky receded. The black hole closed and the entire sky returned to its original blue color. In midair, 3 incomparably huge worlds faintly appeared. They were 3 Qian Kuan worlds. Under these 3 Qian Kuan worlds, the 3 figures were like gods who had descended to the mortal world. They were full of auras and majestic auras. What a powerful Qiankuan world! Lian and Jiyu Xuandao looked at each other with fear in their eyes. The Qiankuan world formed by Murong Yongye and the other 2 was much stronger than the 2 of them. If the 2 of them were to fight against any one of them, they would probably be killed instantly. The 3 of them are probably invincible existences within the great tribulation of heaven and earth. It's almost impossible for cultivators of the great tribulation of heaven and earth to be a match for them. Ju's expression changed drastically, and his eyes were filled with worry. With the combined strength of Murong Yongye and the other 2, they could fight against an early-stage Dharma plane cultivator. Zhuowen, your sins are grave. You forced us to break through the universe tribulation. Tell me, how do you want to die? Rong Yongye's eyes were extremely cold. The reward for being the first on the outer realm celestial ranking was too generous. He had suppressed his realm for so many years, but now it was all broken by Zhuowen. He wanted to cut Zhuowen into pieces. Wei Yuntian and Xuejiu Chong were also brimming with killing intent. They had the same thoughts as Murong Yongye. So much nonsense. Zhuowen said coolly. You're courting death. Xuejiu Chong roared and charged towards Zhuowen with his huge Chenkuan world. He had long hated Zhuowen to the core. Now, he just wanted to end this arrogant and ignorant guy. It's better if the three of you work together. Zhuowen looked at Xuejiu Chong, who was getting closer and closer, and reminded them. Do you still think I'm as strong as I was before my breakthrough? After my breakthrough, my strength has increased by a lot. Now, it's easy for me to kill you. Xuejiu Chong sneered, and the killing intent in his eyes intensified. He was naturally angry that this guy was still looking down on him. I've warned you. If you don't listen, then you can only die. Wen was expressionless. He pointed his sword finger at his glabella, and a blazing golden light shot into the sky. Whoosh! A soul sword essence was released by Zhuowen, and it pierced through the sky. Zhuowen had infused this soul sword essence with early-stage cosmic Dharma power, and it was enough to kill Xuejiu Chong. The soul sword essence swept across the sky and collided with Xuejiu Chong in the blink of an eye. The Qiankuan world that the Bloodbone worshipper was so proud of was nothing in the face of this spiritual soul sword intent. It shattered with a bang. The soul sword essence pierced through the universe world and pierced Xuejiu Chong's glabella. Ci. At that moment, the surface of the soul sword essence burned with golden flames. This was the Dharma flame, and it burned Xuejiu Chong to ashes. After killing Xuejiu Chong, the soul sword essence continued to fly across the sky. Its next target was Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian, who were watching coldly from a distance. Blood Xuejiu Chong died so suddenly that the two of them did not even have time to react before the soul sword essence reached them. The soul sword essence of early-stage cosmic Dharma power was so powerful that even an early-stage cosmic Dharma power would be severely injured if hit by it. Moreover, the two of them had just broken through the Chen Kuan tribulation. The two universe worlds overlapped in front of them, but they were as fragile as paper. They were burned to ashes by the Dharma flame on the surface of the soul sword essence. Dharma flame. How can this soul attack have Dharma flame? Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian hurriedly retreated. They did not care about the backlash from the destruction of the universe worlds and fled like crazy. Their eyes were filled with deep fear and despair. Could it be that this person's soul has reached the level of a cosmic Dharma power? How can there be such a perverted person? Murong Yongye cursed in his heart. He could not help but turn to look at the figure who had been standing in the same spot since the beginning. At that moment, he finally understood the great gap between him and this person. It was a gap that made people despair. It's no use running away, Zhuo said. There was a cold smile on Wen's face. He slowly stretched out his right hand and gently grasped the void. In an instant, the soul sword essence that was chasing after Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian exploded. The rolling Dharma flame swept out like a wave. It was so fast that it caught up with Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian in an instant. No matter how strong a person was, he was still as weak as an ant in front of the Dharma flame. The Dharma flame gradually disappeared. Murong Yongye and Wei Yuntian were nowhere to be seen. They had been burned into nothingness by the Dharma flame. Their bodies and souls had been destroyed. The endless Dharma flame surged and spread. Yang Yushan and the other geniuses, who were originally the closest, were caught in the crossfire. They did not even have time to react before they were swallowed by the Dharma flame and turned into nothingness. Weak, they are really too weak. Is this the level of the top 3 on the outer world list? Zhuowen shook his head and said lightly. His voice was not loud, but it was like the power of heaven, exploding in the ears of the people around him. The surroundings of the Blackbone wilderness were silent. There was only the sound of people sucking in the air. While the onlookers looked at Zhuowen again, their eyes were full of horror and fear. Chapter 4275. Is there anyone else who wants to kill me? After Zhuowen defeated Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shuejiu Chong in one move, he slowly turned his head and looked at the other geniuses on the Outer Realm leaderboard. You must be joking. You're so handsome and heroic. How can we compare to you? It's even more impossible for us to come and kill you. That's right. I don't know which bastard dared to provoke a genius like fellow Zhuo. They really don't know what they're talking about. Zhuo, after Wen looked around, no one dared to look him in the eye. They all retreated and tried their best to explain with mocking smiles on their faces. Shuju and Ziyu's gazes were especially complicated. They had underestimated Zhuoan once again. This person was too powerful. He was even more monstrous than Sakyamuni. Since you're not here to kill me, then disappear from my sight now. I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If there's anyone else in front of me, I'll kill them without mercy. Wen's voice was like a large bell. Rolling sound waves wrapped in terrifying killing intent resounded between heaven and earth. The geniuses on the Outer Realm leaderboard, who originally felt great pressure, sighed in their hearts and fled in panic. Fellow Zhu, you can stay. Just as Zhuan was about to leave, Zhuowen's voice came, making him stop helplessly and go to Zhuowen's side. Thank you for the reminder. Zhuowen cupped his fists and smiled. Zhuowen waved his hand helplessly and said, Fellow Zhuo, you're too polite. If I knew that you were so powerful, why would I do something unnecessary? I'm not an unreasonable person. I won't forget your good intentions. How about this? I'm willing to give you one of my incomplete map spots. After the big hunt is over, we'll contact each other again. Zhuowen smiled. His impression of Zhuowen was good. Although Zhuowen also came for the incomplete map, he was a person who adhered to morality and had a bottom line. Brother Zhuo, it's great that you're fine. It's really a case of a scholar being away for 3 days and being treated differently. Brother Zhuo, you're getting further and further away. You've left us far behind. Shuju greeted him with a face full of smiles. Purple Yu followed behind him with a look of disdain. Zhuo Wenjiao nodded and said, If there's nothing else, then please leave. I intend to cultivate here. He didn't have a deep relationship with Shuju and Ziyu. When the two of them invited him to cooperate at the Immortal Pavilion, they didn't have much sincerity. They even arranged for experts to secretly spy on him at the Immortal Pavilion. In addition, the two of them didn't care if he lived or died, and only cared about the map fragment. Zhuowen didn't want to have too much contact with the two of them. Shuju was a bit embarrassed. Instead, Ziyu beside him was a bit unhappy. Fortunately, Shuju stopped her in time and didn't let Ziyu ruin things. If that's the case, Brother Zhuo, we'll take our leave first. Shuju's tone was flat as he left with Ziyu. Daoist Zhuo, you've offended the top 5 geniuses of the Outer Realm heavenly list. Especially Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shuejiu Chong. The 3 of them have extremely strong backgrounds. Now that you've killed them, the forces behind them won't let you off. Godden's mouth was a bit bitter. He reminded in a low voice, this time, the geniuses of the Outer Realm heavenly list didn't come here alone. They were all escorted by experts. For example, this time, I was escorted here by my master. He's a late-stage Dharma plane expert. And the experts behind Murong Yongye and the others are probably even stronger than my master. Daoist Zhuo, you must be careful. After he finished speaking, Godden took his leave, leaving behind Zhuo who was deep in thought. Look. The geniuses of the Outer Realm heavenly list weren't easy to deal with. Now, almost everyone knew that the map fragment was with him, and he had killed so many people. Only if he returned to Di Luo City, he would immediately become the target of public criticism. Although it was said that Zhuo Wen's current strength was strong enough, but in the face of so many cosmic Dharma adepts at once, it was still impossible for him to escape. I must break through the universe tribulation as soon as possible. This is the only way to escape, Zhuo said. Zhuo Wen's eyes flashed with a wise light. He had already thought of a plan to escape. Then, Zhuowen spent half a day setting up a complex combination array around the Blackbone Barren Land. Every combination array was at the first sky of the Eternal Realm. In the inside the Blackbone Barren Land, almost no one had the ability to break into the Blackbone Barren Land, which was covered by the combination array. Cloth. After setting up the array, Zhuowen asked Jiu Xuandao, Black Lotus, and Shan Lingyun to protect him. Then, he sat cross-legged in the center of the Blackbone Barrenland and began to absorb the surging evil qi in the depths of the Blackbone Barrenland for his own use. While Zhuowen was cultivating crazily, the 7 big cities outside the Blackbone Barrenland were in a complete mess. During the big hunt, all the contestants who participated in it were given entry jade tokens. In fact, the entry jade tokens also recorded the contestants' vital signs. This entry jade token had 2 types of jade tokens. Only then was it a complete jade token. Clang. In the beginning, the 7 deputy city lords of the 7 big cities gave the contestants the main jade tokens. As for the secondary jade tokens, they were taken out of the Blackbone Barrenland and handed over to the jade token pavilions of the city lords. When Zhuowen slaughtered most of the teams in the Blackbone Barrenland, the jade tokens kept in the jade token pavilions of the 7 big cities were all shattered. Many fragments were scattered all over the floor of the jade token pavilions. 7. The managers of the jade token pavilions of the big cities were so frightened that they rushed into the city lord's mansion and reported the matter to their respective city lords. 1. Suddenly, the 7 city lords gathered in the city lord's mansion of Zhaotian City again. However, their faces were extremely ugly. This was because they had a private discussion and found that their situations were very similar. All the secondary jade tokens in the jade token pavilions were shattered. 2. Zhao frowned and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I've already learned that most of the secondary cards kept in our 7 cities' jade card pavilions have been shattered. Only a very small portion of the secondary cards are still considered complete. What do you think is the situation?" Ling said. Luo stood up and said in a low voice, "Do you still need to say what the situation is? The secondary jade tokens are closely related to the main jade token. The shattering of the secondary jade token means that the main jade token is also shattered. The shattering of the main jade token also means that the owner of the main jade token has fallen. Impossible. Doesn't this mean that most of the contestants have fallen just now? In the Blackbone Barrenland, who would have such terrifying strength?" Fen Xin, the city lord of Burning Sky City, shook his head and refuted. Therefore, the other city lords were also discussing and expressing their own opinions. Most of them were puzzled and confused about the phenomenon that happened in the jade token pavilions. Although in the big hunt in the past, there were often cases of jade tokens shattering, but it was only a small number. After all, it was inevitable that there would be deaths and injuries in the big hunt. This was a normal phenomenon. But, now, almost at the same time, most of the jade tokens were shattered. This was too strange. Chapter 4276. Everyone, haven't you all overlooked something? Suddenly, Chen Zhao, the governor of Clear Sky City, spoke. The other governors, who were originally discussing animatedly, quieted down and looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao took a deep breath and said, "Didn't we issue an order according to Lady Handsome Girl's request? The order is to kill Zhuowen. What do you think the participants of the Great Hunt will do after receiving this order?" The pupils of the other city lords shrunk slightly. Among them, Ling Luo frowned slightly and said, "City Lord Chen Zhao, could it be that you want to say that many contestants joined hands to kill Zhuowen but were instead killed by him? Although I don't know who Zhuowen is, I don't believe that he has the ability to kill so many participants in an instant. Unless he is one of the top 3 geniuses on the heavenly list, but they don't have to do that." Chen Zhao sighed and said, "Actually, I don't believe it either, but this is the highest possibility. Also, I have restored an image in an undamaged jade token." As he spoke, Chen Zhao took out a jade token and poured out divine power from his palm. The jade token emitted a dazzling white light and then left the jade token. It rushed into the air and showed an image. There were monitoring restrictions set up in the jade token. Therefore, everything that the cultivator who wore the jade token saw and heard was recorded in the jade token. As long as the monitoring restriction was activated, any image recorded in the jade token could be displayed. Only the image showed the Blackbone Wasteland in the Black Gold Mountain Range. At this moment, in the center of the Blackbone Wasteland stood a calm young man. While around the young man, figures flew out and rushed toward him. They were the participants of the Great Hunt. These participants attacked the young man together without any regard for their lives and used all kinds of methods. While the young man blocked them easily and finally used some kind of soul attack. The whole image was filled with blazing golden light and it was impossible to see what was happening inside. Clang. When the image was restored, the thousands of participants who were still alive and kicking had become a mountain of corpses. The young man was unharmed and stood silently in the same place. This person is Zhuowen. He killed most of the participants alone, although I don't know what method he used, he should be the source of all this. Chen Zhao rubbed his temples and said with a headache. This kid is really ruthless. He almost killed all the participants. Isn't he afraid that he will become a target after the Great Hunt? I'm afraid that this kid can't leave the 7 big cities. Once he appears, he will attract the crazy revenge of the big forces. The other governors discussed and shook their heads, especially Emperor Luo, the governor of Emperor City, Luo. Zhuowen was a contestant from Di Luo City. He knew that once this matter was spread, the experts from the other big cities would swarm into Di Luo City. It might even implicate him, the city lord. Reaching there, Ling Luo was endlessly cursing Zhuowen in his heart. He hated him so much that his teeth itched. Don't tell anyone about this first. Wait for me to ask Lady Handsomeness before we discuss it. Zhao put away the jade card and hurriedly left. Wait. When he arrived at Emperor Luo's residence, he found her interrogating the 3 people from Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion. At this moment, the 3 people from Divine Jade Ancient Pavilion were not in good condition. Their faces were pale and there were bloodstains on their bodies. From their torn clothes and exposed wounds, it was obvious that they had been abused. Jun looked at Chen Zhao who was standing outside and waiting respectfully. She waved her hand and said, I'm satisfied with your answers. You can leave now. The 3 of them felt as if they had been pardoned. They quickly thanked her and left. What's the matter? Emperor Luo waved to Chen Zhao outside the door and asked indifferently. Emperor Luo, the participants who participated in the Great Hunt suffered heavy casualties. Take a look at this. After Zhao said respectfully, he took out the jade token and activated the recorded image in the jade token. After the image was played, Emperor Luo's face became very serious. She whispered, this Zhuowen is really not simple. After Jun finished watching the image, she asked Chen Zhao, are there any more recorded images of this person? In fact, she had suspected that Yang Yucheng might have been killed by Zhuowen. However, she felt that it was too unbelievable, so she was not sure. In order to verify her hypothesis, she had asked Chen Zhao to issue that order. Her goal was actually to see how strong Zhuowen was. In the image just now, it only recorded that Zhuowen had killed the participants from the newer domain. The geniuses from the 100 domains did not appear to fight with Zhuowen. Jun knew that the geniuses on the outer realm heavenly ranking would definitely find Zhuowen. What she really wanted to see was the battle between the geniuses from the 100 domains and Zhuowen. Yes. Here are the other intact jade tokens. There are other recorded images. I'll show them to you. Chen Zhao did not dare to delay and released all the records in the remaining jade tokens. Soon, Jun Luo saw Zhuowen fighting against Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Xueji Yuchong. Clang. After she finished watching, her eyes turned cold. She said coldly, his cultivation level is only at the peak of the ancient star transformation, but his soul is at the level of the cosmic avatar. He's really good at hiding his strength. Naturally, Chen Zhao saw the battle in the image too. He was also shocked by Zhuowen's terrifying strength. The Outer Realm. If the top 3 sky prides on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking were no match for him, would it not mean that he was the real number 1 on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking? Chen Zhao, release another piece of news for me. Tell everyone about Zhuowen's actions in the Black Gold Mountain range. Also, make sure to leak this image to the public. The more people know about it, the better. Chen Zhao nodded. He put the jade token away and left Jun Luo's residence. After Chen Zhao left, Jun Luo glanced at Xinyu who was standing on her left and said, Xinyu, do you know Zhuowen? Earlier, when the image appeared, Jun Luo sensed a sudden murderous intent from Shen Yu. Although he concealed it very quickly, it did not escape Jun Luo's eyes. Lady Handsomeness, this subordinate indeed knows this Shuo Wen. It's like this. He's related to Duan Jipeng. Shen Yu said. Shen Yu told Jun Luo about his encounter with Zhuoan and Duan Jipeng in the witchcraft boundary. Of course, he left out many details. For example, he did not reveal that Zhuoan had severely damaged his imperial ties seal. Naturally, he was selfish. The imperial ties seal was definitely an extraordinary artifact. If Jun Luo was the one who told Jun Luo about it, he would not have a share in it. He wanted to kill Zhuoan himself and take the imperial ties seal for himself. His Duan Jipeng's accomplice. That's even more reason for him to die. When he returns to Di Luo City and becomes the target of public criticism, he'll be in a life and death crisis. By then, Duan Jipeng will definitely not stand by and watch. Once Duan Jipeng appears, we'll take him down immediately. Then, we'll really have done a great service, Jun Luo said with a cold smile. What everyone did not know was that in the core of the 100 territories far away, there was a Archean Heavenly Academy that had existed since the beginning of time. At that moment, there were many stone tablets standing in a square in the Archean Heavenly Academy. Among the stone tablets, there was a stone tablet that recorded the heavenly ranking list. At the stone tablet of the heavenly ranking list, there were drastic changes to the top 3 names. Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shuejiyu Chong's names disappeared and were replaced by Zhuoan, Shuju, and Ziyu. The top 3 are dead. Who's this Zhuoan? He's actually ranked first on the heavenly ranking list. The changes in the stone tablet of the heavenly ranking list immediately attracted the attention of many Archean Heavenly Academy disciples in the square. They gathered in front of the stone tablet and pointed at it. They were all curious about who Zhuoan was. Chapter 4277. As expected of the genius personally chosen by Master Yuansheng. Junior Shitian, you've broken the record of the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy the moment you arrive. I'm really impressed. That's for sure. In the countless years of our immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy, there are only a few geniuses who can be personally recruited by a sage master. Junior Shitian's future is limitless. A group of people clustered around an imposing young man as they slowly walked in from outside the square. Green, he was extremely handsome with a head of golden hair that hung down to his shoulders. The strangest thing was that between the young man's eyebrows, there was a golden stripe that was faintly discernible, as if it was his third eye. It was strange and mysterious. Here this person was Sakyamuni, who had just joined the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. The group of people clustered around him were all disciples of the immemorial Heavenly Tao Academy. They were all senior brothers who had joined the academy earlier than Sakyamuni. However, these arrogant senior brothers were speaking to Sakyamuni in a fawning manner, as if they wanted to gain Sakyamuni's favor and attention. On the other hand, Sakyamuni's gaze was calm as he looked straight ahead. He turned a blind eye to the fawning senior brothers around him. Emperor, these senior brothers were not annoyed by Shitian's attitude. Instead, they felt that it was very normal. After all, he was the personal disciple of a sage master. Just his status alone was far higher than ordinary disciples like them. Their purpose of fawning over Sakyamuni was actually to use Sakyamuni as a medium to contact Master Yuansheng. Emperor Shitian naturally knew the purpose of these senior brothers. Therefore, he did not really want to pay attention to these people. The group of people walked into the square and were quickly attracted by the people in the center of the square who were discussing animatedly. The top 3 names on the Outer Realm Heavenly ranking have disappeared? Could it be that the 3 fellows who had been on it all year round have all broken through? One of the senior fellow apprentices following Sakyamuni naturally noticed the change in the ranking on the stone tablet of the Outer Realm Heavenly list, and he couldn't help but ask in surprise. He knew that Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shuejiyu Chong could have broken through the Qian Kuan tribulation a long time ago, but they didn't do so because they wanted to get the top 3 rewards. Only yes, they looked down on the 3 of them from the bottom of their hearts. For the sake of a mere reward for the top 3 of the Outer Realm rankings, They had constantly suppressed their realms and did not seek to improve themselves. In reality, it was a slow suicide for them. They had severed their future path of cultivation and even brought about an inner demon that was difficult to make up for. Now, because the names of these 3 people suddenly disappeared, they naturally thought that these 3 people must have chosen to break through. Who is this Juoan? What an unfamiliar name. I've never seen it on the Beyond Realm heavenly ranking before. Another senior fellow apprentice besides Shitian was quite interested in the number 1 Juoan, and he chuckled. However, they didn't pay too much attention to it. They had once entered the top 5 of the Outer Realm heavenly ranking, and now they were disciples of the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy. Therefore, they still somewhat looked down on the geniuses of the Outer Realm Heavenly Tao Academy. After all, after joining the Archean Heavenly Tao Academy, their horizons had broadened too much. A mere Outer Realm Heavenly Tao Academy naturally didn't take them to heart. However, when they looked at Sakyamuni, they were surprised to find that this monstrous junior fellow apprentice, who had always been calm and indifferent to everything, was now standing still as if he had been petrified. His calm eyes were filled with inexplicable emotions as he stared at the number 1 of the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. Junior fellow apprentice. What's wrong with you? Do you know this Juoan? One of the senior fellow apprentices was very observant. He immediately noticed the change in Sakyamuni's emotions and couldn't help but ask. Sakyamuni withdrew his gaze. There was a complicated and strange look in his eyes. He then shook his head and said, "I don't know him. Senior fellow apprentices, if there's anything else, let's talk about it another day. I'll take my leave first." After saying that, Sakyamuni didn't care about these senior fellow apprentices who were deliberately trying to curry favor with him and directly left the square. Only however, these senior fellow apprentices didn't notice that the moment Sakyamuni turned around, his eyes were filled with a trace of coldness, and the corners of his mouth revealed an inexplicable smile. Interesting. Juoan, I originally thought that even after entering the 100 Outer Realms, you could only fade into the crowd. I didn't expect your progress to not be slow either. No. In the end, you can't compare to me. The speed of my progress is far beyond your imagination, and my pace of progress will only be faster. Juoan, in the end, you're just my stepping stone. The current you isn't qualified to be compared to me. An ant will always be an ant in the end. Sakyamuni murmured in a low voice. His eyes were filled with disdain. Now, he no longer regarded Juoan as an opponent. He had a greater goal and unparalleled talent. In the future, he would be invincible in the world. Of course, if he could meet Juoan, he would naturally take action and personally kill this former opponent. If he didn't meet Juoan, he wouldn't take the initiative to find Juoan. In his eyes, Juoan was only an ant now, so how could he possibly lower himself and take the initiative to look for trouble with an ant? At the same time, in the newer realm, the 7 cities around the Golden Mountain Range were in complete chaos. Clang. The 7 city lords followed the order of the woman and released the video of what Juoan had done in the Golden Mountain Range. After that, all the cultivators in the 7 cities knew that Juoan had slaughtered most of the contestants in the Golden Mountain Range. Even more, even Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Shueji Yuchong, who were in the top 3 of the Outer Realm leaderboard, were killed. This completely shocked all the cultivators in the 7 cities. Clang. The experts behind the slaughtered contestants were all furious. They all gathered outside the City Lord's mansion of Clear Sky City, demanding an explanation from the 7 city lords. Although they hated Juoan to the core, they didn't lose their minds. They also knew that if the 7 city lords hadn't issued the order at the last minute, none of the contestants would have chosen to be Juoan's enemy, which led to the current tragedy. Outside the City Lord's mansion, powerful figures gathered in the open space outside the mansion. They were basically the experts behind the dead contestants. They were also the people in charge of leading the contestants to participate in the big hunt. Now, all the contestants they brought were dead. For the forces behind them, this was a huge loss. Naturally, they wouldn't give up so easily. At the gate of the City Lord's mansion, the 7 city lords kept comforting the crowd. Their foreheads were already covered in cold sweat. There were so many experts, many of whom were in the cosmic form. Even the 7 city lords felt great pressure when they suddenly came to the city lord's mansion to demand an explanation. 7 city lords, this time, our disciples have all died in the Golden Mountain range. You can't escape responsibility. If you don't give us a satisfactory explanation, we won't leave today. Yes. It's all because of your order that led to this tragedy. You are all responsible. Don't try to push all the blame to Zhuoan. Outside the city lord's mansion, many experts looked cold. They were all talking and looking at the 7 city lords with unfriendly eyes. At this moment, the 7 city lords were in a difficult position. Almost all the powerful forces in the newer realm were gathered here. They couldn't afford to offend so many forces. Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 4278. Just as the tension between the two sides reached its peak, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the governor's mansion, instantly suppressing the aura of all the experts outside the mansion. Even more, some of the weaker, unlucky fellows were even forced back by this aura and almost fell to the ground. What a powerful aura! This should be an expert at the pinnacle of the Dharma phase of the universe. When did such a terrifying expert appear in the 7 major cities? After sensing this aura that was far stronger than theirs, the people who were originally excited felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over them, and their hands and feet turned cold. Although there were some experts at the Dharma phase of the universe among them, the strongest was only at the middle stage of the Dharma phase of the universe. The gap between them and the pinnacle of the Dharma phase of the universe was too big. How to put it bluntly, if this pinnacle of the Dharma phase of the universe made a move, all of them together might not be a match for him. Everyone, I am the Nu Jun of the newer clan. The order issued by the 7 governors is my idea. Now, do you have any objections? If you do, I will compensate you on behalf of the newer clan. A cold female voice came from the depths of the governor's mansion. Everyone. When they heard this, they only felt cold all over and fear in their hearts. They did not expect that the Nu Jun of the newer clan, one of the 3 leaders of the newer clan, would intervene in this matter, which made them feel bitter in their hearts. If it was just the 7 city lords' intention, they would naturally continue to make trouble. However, they did not dare to make trouble with the newer clan. After all, the newer clan was the dominator of the newer realm. Wouldn't it be suicide to make trouble with them? I know that you are very angry, and this is also something I did not expect. Zhuoan is only at the pinnacle of the ancient star transformation, but his strength is so terrifying. But you should also think about it from another perspective. This man is ruthless and vicious. Since he has such strength, there is no need for him to kill people, but he still did it. This shows that he does not care about the newer realm at all. In the newer realm, this man has committed so many crimes. Can this man be forgiven? Everyone, don't worry. The newer clan will compensate you for your losses after this matter, but this Zhuoan must die, so you need to cooperate with me to capture this kid. Jun's tone became much gentler. She was well aware of the method of using the carrot and stick. After these few words, the unhappiness in everyone's hearts was resolved by a lot. The reason why they came to the city lord's mansion to cause a ruckus was because they wanted the 7 city lords to compensate them accordingly. After all, the dead could not be brought back to life. Their disciples had died in the Black Gold Mountain range, and this was something that could not be changed. Naturally, they wanted to maximize their benefits. As for Zhuoan, even if the handsome girl didn't say anything, they wouldn't let him off so easily. Regardless of whether he was forced to do so or for other reasons, he shouldn't have killed their disciples. Since he had killed them, he had to bear the consequences of their revenge. Seeing that everyone outside the mansion had settled down, the 7 city lords also breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, 3 extremely terrifying auras erupted from outside Clear Sky City. Then, they charged into the city with extreme speed. This eyesore. As soon as the 3 terrifying auras arrived, all the cultivators in Clear Sky City were affected. Most of the cultivators couldn't withstand the auras and knelt on the ground, resisting the suppression of the auras with difficulty. This This is another peak Dharma power expert of the universe, and there are 3 of them. Outside the City Lord's mansion, many of the experts' faces changed. They could clearly feel that the 3 auras were no weaker than the handsome girl. What frightened them even more was that the 3 auras were heading towards the City Lord's mansion. Obviously, the 3 terrifying experts' target was the City Lord's mansion of Clear Sky City. Swoosh, swoosh. As the 3 auras approached, the handsome girl in the depths of the City Lord's mansion could no longer sit still. She flew out of the mansion and floated in mid-air. The people outside the mansion finally saw the handsome girl's true face. The handsome girl was very beautiful and had a graceful figure. The only difference was that the colorful snake tail was circling in mid-air, indicating her identity as a member of the newer clan. At this moment, there were 2 men following behind the handsome girl. One of them was wearing a feather robe and a tall crown, while the other was carrying a sword case on his back. They were Shin Yu and Jian Luo. What's going on? There are 3 peak Dharma power experts of the universe. Which universe did they come from? Shin Yu's face turned gloomy, and there was fear in his eyes. Even Jian Luo, who was a man of few words, looked pale. The handsome girl did not say anything. Her beautiful eyes, which were as clear as gemstones, stared into the distance. Over there, in the distant sky, 3 rainbow lights flew over rapidly. They did not conceal their auras, and they were fearless and overbearing. Not long after, the 3 streaks of light stopped not far from the woman, revealing 3 figures. 3. There were 2 men and 1 woman. Among the 2 men, one of them was a middle-aged man who was riding on a cloud. There was a huge cloud dragon rolling under his feet, and he looked like an immortal. Another one of them was an old man who was holding an everlasting lamp. His white eyebrows reached his chest. The other woman looked like she was in her 30s, but no one knew how old she was. She wore a blood-red robe, and her fair face paired with her bright red lips actually possessed a bewitching beauty. Especially her eyes, they seemed to captivate one's soul, and as long as one met her gaze, they would involuntarily sink into them. The handsome girl did not pay much attention to them at first. However, when she saw the insignia on their clothes, her eyes narrowed. Old Man Ming Deng from the Divine Spark universe, Shui Mai from the Bloodthorn universe, and Yun Chunzi from the Cloud Dragon universe. The handsome girl muttered to herself and reported the names and backgrounds of the 3 people. Her voice was not loud, but everyone present was an expert. Naturally, they heard her clearly. What? The 3 of them are from the Divine Spark universe, the Bloodthorn universe, and the Cloud Dragon universe? As expected. When the geniuses from the 100 domains entered the Black Gold Mountain range, we should have known that there must be someone protecting them. The experts from the super domains have indeed come. Many powerhouses looked at the 3 figures standing in front of the beautiful woman with fear in their eyes as they discussed softly. No. Speaking of the super domains behind the 3 of them, their powerful cultivation alone was enough to make them look up to them. What do you mean by this? The handsome girl's face was gloomy. She could naturally see that the 3 of them did not come with good intentions. Not only did they not restrain their aura, it was showing signs of becoming more and more rampant. What do we mean? Handsome girl, don't you know what's going on? The beautiful girl in a blood-red robe licked her lips and stared coldly at the handsome girl with her blood-red eyes. Her tone was as if she was questioning her. Is it because of that Zhuoan? The handsome girl asked with a frown. Ha ha. Don't play dumb. Wei Yuntian is the top genius of our Cloud Dragon universe. You contributed greatly to his death in the Black Gold Mountain range. Yun Chunzi of the Cloud Dragon universe sneered at the handsome girl. The 3 of you, I'm sure you've seen the video. The murderer who killed the top 3 of the Outer World list is Zhuoan. It has nothing to do with me. Now, we are actually on the same side. Zhuoan has also killed many people of my newer clan, the handsome girl said in a low voice. Chapter 4279. Handsome girl, do you really think the 3 of us are fools? If it weren't for you, Murong Yongye and the others wouldn't have gone after Zhuoan. They wouldn't have died because of this. Old Lamp's wrinkled face was deeply wrinkled, and his voice was filled with vicissitudes and malice. Female, her pretty face was slightly pale. The three people in front of her were not ordinary, and they were stronger than her. It was easy to imagine how much pressure she was under. Would it be possible for the three of you to come to my residence for a chat? I will definitely give you a satisfactory place to settle your issues. The woman seemed to have made up her mind as she spoke. Old Man Ming Deng, Blood Beauty, and Yun Chunzi looked at each other. They also understood what she meant. They nodded and followed her into the city lord's mansion. They wanted to see what kind of explanation this woman was going to give them. Or perhaps the others were afraid of the newer clan and didn't dare to offend her. But the three of them all had backgrounds that were superior to the newer clan, and they were not afraid of this beautiful woman at all. If worse came to worst, they could just go on a rampage and kill her, and the newer clan might not even dare to pursue the matter. Outside the mansion, many experts gathered in the open space looked at each other, but they didn't leave. Their disciples had all died in the Golden Crow mountain range. Their only thought now was to wait for Zhuoan to come out, and then kill him all in one fell swoop to avenge their disciples' deaths. But, now, it was the 7 city lords who controlled the seal of the Golden Crow mountain range. He was waiting for the 7 city lords to work together to open the seal and release Zhuoan from the Golden Crow mountain range, so that they could attack that little bastard and crush him into dust. The 7 city lords outside the mansion all had their own ulterior motives, each with their own thoughts. They knew very well how powerful the Divine Spark domain, the Cloud Dragon domain, and the Bloodthorn domain were. They were all supergrade domains, one whole level higher than the newer domain. The deaths of Rong Yongye, Shuejiyu Chong and Wei Yuntian were actually the result of the newer clan and the 7 cities offending the powerful forces behind the 3. Since the female lead had called them into the mansion, she must be planning to negotiate and appease their anger. If the negotiation failed, they wouldn't dare to seek revenge even if the 3 slaughtered their 7 cities. Now furthermore, the 7 of them were actually prepared for the worst. Once the negotiation failed, they would immediately abandon the city and flee for their lives. Although it was said that the 7 great cities in the Golden Crow mountain range were developed by the 7 of them after spending countless manpower and resources. But none of this was as precious as their lives. Minutes and seconds passed. About 6 hours later, the people outside the mansion realized that the originally hostile aura inside the mansion had been reduced by a lot in an instant. After a while, 6 figures flashed out of the manor. The 3 people at the front were naturally Old Man Ming Deng, Blood Beauty, and Yun Chunzi. Meanwhile, handsome Nu arrived late with God Bless and Jian Luo with a grim look on her face. The 7 city lords heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts when they saw both sides walk out peacefully. They understood that this meant that the negotiations between the 2 sides should have been preliminary successful. Judging from the extremely unsightly expression on the woman's face, it wasn't difficult to discern that the woman and the newer clan behind her had probably paid an extremely heavy price this time. Handsome Nu, don't forget the condition that you promised the 3 of us. From today onwards, we won't pursue your crime of killing Murong Yongye and the others, Old Man Ming Deng said calmly. Female Jun clenched her fists tightly. However, she still suppressed her anger and said in a muffled voice, "Don't worry. Since the Great Clan Supreme has agreed to this, we naturally won't break our promise. Since the misunderstanding between us has been resolved, you don't have to interfere with Zhuowan's matter anymore. We'll capture him and bring him back to Newer City to be dealt with." Blood Beauty licked her red lips and said coldly, "No. Since you're the one who caused all this, you should capture Zhuowan alive and bring him to the 3 of us. Then, the 3 of us will deal with him personally." Jun's pupils constricted. She bit her lips and said in a low voice, "The 3 of you, this child must be handed over to our newer clan. To tell you the truth, he was once an accomplice of a wanted criminal of our newer clan. We must take him away." It was very likely that Zhuowan had obtained the inheritance and treasures of the Saint Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires. This was the final goal that the newer clan had been planning for so many years. How could the woman just hand over Zhuowan? Moreover, the Great Clan Supreme had personally ordered this matter. There was no way the woman would hand Zhuowan over to Old Man Ming Deng and the others. So what? Handsome Nu, All of this is because of you. If you don't capture Zhuowen personally and hand him over to us, don't blame us for reporting this matter to the higher-ups of our clan. I think it's best if you think carefully before taking action, Yun Chunzi said indifferently. Said with that, Yun Chunzi followed Old Man Ming Deng and Blood Beauty out of the City Lord's manor. Although the three of them were very displeased that Zhuowen had killed Murong Yongye, Wei Yuntian, and Bloodbone Chong, they didn't particularly care about Zhuowen. In their hearts, Zhuowen might be a peerless genius, but in the end, he was just an ant who couldn't even withstand the great universal tribulation. This child had killed so many contestants and angered everyone. Once he left Gold Crow Mountain Range, how could he possibly escape with his life? The three of them were very smart. They used the deaths of Murong Yongye and the others as an excuse to force the woman to hand Zhuowen over to them as soon as she captured him. He wasn't worried that the woman would kidnap Zhuowen and return to the newer realm alone. After all, the newer clan couldn't afford to offend the three of them. What the three of them were truly worried about were the experts from the other super realms who were still hiding in the shadows. They were also eyeing Zhuowen covetously. Woman Jun was so angry that her entire body trembled. However, she didn't dare to do anything. This time, she had really shot herself in the foot. She could only look at the backs of Old Man Ming Deng and the others in despair. They've gone too far. They're experts from the super realms after all. They have a certain status and identity. How dare they bully others with their power? Shen Yu said through gritted teeth. Lady Jun, what do you plan to do? Are we really going to do as they asked? Jian Luo was rather calm. He looked at the woman and asked in a low voice. Woman Jun frowned and sighed softly. We have to capture Zhuowen and hand him over to the three of them. However, before we hand him over to them, we have to snatch the inheritance of the Saint Lord of 7 emotions and 6 desires from Zhuowen first. As far as I know, there are many experts from the super realms who have infiltrated Gold Crow Mountain Range. Their goal is very similar. They're all here for a piece of the map. As long as we don't touch the map, the three of them won't pursue the matter even if they know that we've tampered with it. Chapter 4280. The 7 of you, activate the seal of the Golden Crow Mountain Range and teleport all the contestants out. The lady slowly landed in front of the City Lord's mansion and said to the 7 City Lords in front of her. She said. Then, she looked at the group of experts outside the mansion and said, Everyone, the teleportation seal of the Golden Crow Mountain Range will be activated soon. When the time comes, all the survivors in the Golden Crow Mountain Range will be teleported out. Please keep an eye out for Zhuowen. Whoever can find Zhuowen, the newer clan will do him a favor. If anyone is able to capture Zhuowen personally, you can make a reasonable request to the newer clan. The moment she said this, everyone was shocked. The newer clan was the ruler of the newer domain. A favor from such a huge force was extremely precious to them. Most importantly, what moved them was the request at the end. This request could be made according to their own wishes. The value of this request was much higher than a favor. The Lady Handsomeness was truly heroic. We will not shirk from this. Even if the lady didn't say it, we would still find Zhuowen and settle the score. Now that the lady is so generous, we will definitely capture Zhuowen alive and hand him over to you. Everyone was speechless. The crowd was excited and all of them were confident. It was as if Zhuowen was already a turtle in a jar and was no threat at all. Contrary. On the other hand, many of the experts present had already started to have their own plans. All of them were considering how to be the first to find Zhuowen amidst the chaos and capture him alive. Zhuowen is dead for sure this time. In a remote area outside the mansion, Yu Ji, together with Luan Yu and Ju Yu, looked at the large number of experts around them. Their faces were slightly pale. There were many experts here, and there was no lack of experts at the Cosmic Dharma stage. There was also a peak Cosmic Dharma stage expert like the lady. No. Speaking of Zhuowen, even if he was also at the pinnacle of the Dharma laws of the universe, he would have to pay a great price to escape. Although Zhuowen was extremely talented and invincible at the same level, so what? After all, his cultivation wasn't even at the World Tribulation realm, So how could he have the chance to escape from such an inescapable and hopeless situation? Luan Yu sighed softly, feeling very upset. Fortunately, we have cut ties with this kid. Otherwise, we would definitely be dragged down by this guy, Ju Yu said with lingering fear. Although Yu Ji and Luan Yu didn't say anything, it could be seen from their expressions that they agreed with Ju Yu's words. Coming down, under the signal of the woman, the 7 city lords walked towards the central square of Jiaotian City. In this square, there was a transportation passage from Jiaotian City to the Black Gold Mountain Range. However, each of the 7 giant cities had a portal like this. For example, the palace at the end of Diluo Square in Diluo City also had a portal leading to the Black Gold Mountain Range. According to the rules of the Big Hunt, at the end of the Big Hunt, each city lord had to open the portal in their respective giant cities and send out the contestants from each division. Then, based on the contestants' performance in the Big Hunt, the rankings would be determined based on the contestants' scores. This time, under the command of the woman, they closed the portals to the other 8 giant cities and only opened the portal to Jiaotian City. The purpose was naturally to make it easier to catch Zhuowen. After the 7 city lords had completely opened the portal to Jiaotian City, a huge portal appeared in the sky above the square. At the same time, in the Black Gold Mountain Range, the contestants who were lucky enough to survive immediately realized that the jade pendants on their bodies were emitting a blazing white light. Under the influence of the white light, the space around them started to distort. The portal has been opened outside, we can finally leave the Black Gold Mountain Range. Whoosh. We can finally leave, we don't have to stay with that evil star anymore. In the Black Gold Mountain Range, the contestants were all inexplicably excited after feeling the teleportation from their jade pendants. They'd long since been scared out of their wits by Zhuowen. After they fled, all of them stayed far away from the abyssal bone desolate land as they were deeply afraid that they would be tortured and killed by Zhuo if they got too close to him. Among this group of contestants who were scared out of their wits, only a few of them were contestants from the newer realm who were still alive. Most of them were other geniuses on the realm beyond heaven list. The sparkling white light enveloped everyone. Then, they turned into streaks of white light and disappeared from the Black Gold Mountain Range. Brother Ziyu, don't be impulsive this time. We must first stabilize Zhuowen and then take him away from the Black Gold Mountain Range. After all, we have an agreement with him. As long as we don't go too far, he won't break his promise. In a strange black forest, Shuju and Ziyu were both wrapped in white light. Shuju cautiously reminded Ziyu. Ziyu's temper was too irritable. Shuju was afraid that once Ziyu went out, she would order the expert behind him to attack Zhuowen. Brother Shuju, don't worry. I understand. I won't act rashly. Ziyu smiled. The two of them were quickly engulfed by the white light and disappeared from the black forest. More and more white lights rushed into the sky and out of the Black Gold Mountain Range. In the center of the Black Bone Wasteland, Zhuowen was sitting cross-legged. Billows of evil energy surged out from the depths of the ground and was greedily absorbed by Zhuowen. After being refined by the primordial chant, it turned into surging energy that surged through his meridians. Suddenly, the jade pendant on Zhuowen's body began to tremble and emit a sparkling white light. The surrounding space also began to distort. Zhuowen opened his eyes and looked at the jade pendant on his body. He narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "It seems that they can't wait to teleport me out." After he finished speaking, he took out the jade pendant and used his divine power to shatter it completely. The jade pendants of Black Lotus, Jiyu Xuandao, and Shan Lingyun, who were originally protecting him, also emitted a white light. Zhuowen took Shan Lingyun's jade pendant and shattered it with his divine power. He then looked at Black Lotus and Jiyu Xuandao and said in a low voice, "The two of you, leave the Black Gold Mountain Range first. Then leave the Black Gold Mountain Range immediately. Soon, the 7 major cities will become a place of conflict. If you get involved, you will die without a doubt." Black Lotus and Jiyu Xuandao remained silent for a short while. They took a deep look at Zhuowen and bowed deeply to him. "Fellow Daoist Zhuo, thank you for taking care of us along the way. I will never forget your kindness." Jiu Xuandao said sincerely. Black Lian looked at Zhuowen silently. She did not say a word. Her eyes were filled with complex emotions of fear, reluctance, and respect. White light. The moment the white light completely engulfed her, Black Lotus suddenly said, "Master, you must survive. I will wait for you in the boundless demon sect," Wen only nodded his head slightly and watched the two of them disappear into the white light. Disciple, you have become the target of public criticism. Most of the powerful people in the 7 major cities have their eyes on you. I have already predicted that you will not stay in the Black Gold Mountain Range for long. Soon, they will enter the Black Gold Mountain Range to hunt you down, Shan Lingyun said worriedly. Zhuowen looked serious and said, "It's okay. I still have time. As long as I can successfully break through the Great Qian Kuan tribulation before they enter the Black Gold Mountain Range, I am confident that I can survive." After that, Zhuowen continued to calm down and started to absorb the evil aura in the core of the Black Bone Wasteland at a faster speed. His aura was also increasing rapidly. Now, time was very precious to him. Add a bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 4281. The central square of Zhaotian City was crowded with people. If one were to observe closely, there were many experts with powerful auras hiding in the crowd. They were hiding in the crowd and staring at the sky above the square coldly. There was a gigantic black hole in the sky above the square. White light appeared. White glows appeared in the black hole and landed in the middle of the square. The white light landed in the square and began to fade away, revealing figures one after another. They were the contestants who were sent out of Wujin Mountain. When the contestants realized that they had returned to the square in Zhaotian City, they heaved a sigh of relief. However, there was still a gleam of fear deep in their eyes. Out. The contestants who had just arrived scanned the plaza and returned to their respective teams one after another after discovering their respective teams. Of course, the contestants who returned to their teams were basically disciples from the organizations in Newer Realm. Meanwhile, the surviving geniuses on the Outer Realm Heaven leaderboard joined the crowd quietly, including Shuju and Ziyu. There was a luxurious inn at the southeast corner of the square. In a private room on the highest floor of the inn, the handsome lady was sitting lazily on the soft seat by the window. Her mesmerizing eyes were looking at the contestants who kept appearing in the middle of the square. The private room was huge and could accommodate dozens of people. At that moment, God Bless, Zhen Luo, and the 7 castellans were standing behind the handsome lady obediently. "Master Handsome Lady, aren't the geniuses on the Outer Realm Heaven leaderboard going to stop them? Perhaps they know something about Zhuowen." God Bless could not help but ask. The handsome lady shook her head and said, "These people have powerful backgrounds. There's no need to stop them. Moreover, we'll alert them if we stop them. All we need to do is to wait for them to show up. As soon as Zhuowen shows up, the formation around the square will be activated immediately. We'll take him down as soon as possible." God Bless, Zhen Luo, and the 7 castellans were confused. Zhuowen was just a junior from the ancient star realm. Wasn't the handsome lady being a little too cautious? Fear. Even if they were to fight a cosmic Dharma powerhouse, they would only have such a lineup. The handsome lady looked at God Bless, Zhen Luo, and the rest who were confused. She said, "Yang Yuqing died near the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain in Wujin Mountain. I'm sure you guys know about that, right?" You, Zhen Luo, and the others were stunned for a moment before nodding subconsciously. Yang Yuqing was an elder-level powerhouse in Newer clan. His position was on par with Shen Yu and Zhen Luo. When they heard that Yuqing Yang had fallen, they were all in disbelief. After all, within the Black Gold Mountain Range, there was basically no existence that could threaten Yuqing Yang. Therefore, Yang Yuqing's death was still a mystery in their eyes. Do you know how that Zhuowen entered the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain? The girl narrowed her eyes and asked. How did he get in? Logically speaking, with Yangyu City guarding, how could this kid possibly have the chance to barge into the 7 Emotions 6 Desires Mountain? Did he force his way in? God Bless could not help but laugh when he said that. He felt that his assumption was too unrealistic. How could a guy at the pinnacle of ancient star sneak into the 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain under the nose of a cosmic Dharma powerhouse? Jian Luo was also puzzled. He could not figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. The girl had never told him the cause of Yu Qingyang's death. Therefore, they only knew that Yu Qingyang had fallen. As for how he had died, they had no idea. Zhuowen forced his way into the 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain under Yu Qingyang's nose. The girl said coldly. The room suddenly became silent. Godyu, Jian Luo, and the 7 city governors were in disbelief. They finally understood why Envy Jun was so cautious when dealing with Zhuowen. She had even set up such a terrifying formation. It was all for the sake of capturing Zhuo when alive. Original was the girl suspecting that Yu Qingyang was killed by Zhuowen? Naturally, the girl saw through everyone's expressions. She said nonchalantly, according to the information that I have, this kid is the most suspicious. Of course, whether it's him or not, the hidden powerhouses from the various forces in the square will help me verify it when he comes out. The first city governor looked at the cunning look on the girl's face and felt a chill run down his spine. They finally understood why the girl had encouraged everyone. It turned out that she was using these people as guinea pigs to verify her guess. If her guess was right, and Zhuowen really had the ability to kill an early-stage cosmic avatar, there would naturally be intense clashes and conflicts with the crowd. She could use the tactic of taking turns to tire Zhuowen out before capturing Zhuowen alive. But, if her guess was wrong, then Zhuowen would be unable to withstand a single blow. At that time, she would naturally make a move and rescue Zhuowen from the hands of the others. Moreover, she would capture him. With her strength and prestige, it would not be difficult to accomplish this. No matter if her guess was right or wrong, it would be beneficial to the girl in the end. 7. The first city governor was intimidated by the girl's scheming. His face was slightly pale, and he swore to himself that he would never offend this girl in front of him in the future. On the other hand, Shen Yu and Jian Luo were used to it. In the newer clan, the girl was the weakest among the 3 tribe leaders. However, she was also the most scheming. She was like an abyss, and it was difficult for people to see through her. As time passed, fewer and fewer people came out of the black hole in the sky above the square. However, Zhuowen was still nowhere to be seen. Therefore, when the last 2 people appeared in the square, the black hole in the sky began to shrink slowly. This also meant that all the survivors who were wearing jade tokens in the Golden Crow Mountains had been transported out. What's going on? Where's Zhuowen? At that moment, the powerhouses who were hiding in the square could not sit still anymore and started to get restless. It seems like Zhuowen knows that he has killed so many geniuses, and it's a fact that he can't hide the truth anymore. Therefore, he must have crushed his own jade token and doesn't plan to leave the Golden Crow Mountains. The governor of Clear Sky City, Chen Zhao, said with a frown. On the other hand, the female lead's gaze was calm, as if she had already guessed that this would happen. He's not stupid. He must be planning to break through the Chen Kuan disaster in the Golden Crow Mountains, but he doesn't know how stupid that is. The girl shook her head and smirked. After she finished speaking, she looked at Chen Zhao and the other city lords and said, "The 7 of you, open the entrance to Golden Crow Mountain Range again and remove the restrictions. This time, everyone is allowed to enter Golden Crow Mountain Range." Chen Zhao and the other city governors were shocked. The rule of the Golden Crow Mountains prohibited cultivators who were above the ancient star transformation realm from entering. It was set by the founders of the 7 giant cities, and no one had dared to violate it for tens of thousands of years. It could be said that the 7 giant cities had a tacit agreement with their ancestors, and no one had violated the rule all these years. Of course, they had already made an exception by allowing the powerhouses from the newer clan to guard the 7 emotions and 6 desires mountain. Now that the girl was asking them to open the Golden Crow Mountains completely, it was a violation of the rule that their ancestors had left behind. Chapter 4282. This time, we are determined to win. You cannot refuse. Nuer looked coldly at Chen Zhao and the other 7 city lords. The 7 city lords trembled. They could feel the terrifying murderous intent in Nua's eyes. They knew that if they dared to refuse, Nua would use a thunderous method. This was not something they wanted to see. All right. We will go arrange it now. However, our ancestors spent a great deal of manpower and resources to construct the barrier around the Golden Crow mountain range. It will take 3 days for it to be completely unlocked. Chen Zhao said in a deep voice. All right. Go and prepare. Also, announce this matter and calm the people outside. Nua looked at the restless people in the square and said indifferently. Chen Zhao and the other city lords nodded and said goodbye. They left the box and began to prepare to open Wujin mountain range. This news was deliberately spread by them, and the originally restless crowd gradually quietened down. As for the various experts hidden in the dark, they were also paying close attention to the movements of the 7 city lords. He has already received accurate information. The map fragment in Wujin mountain range has already been obtained by Zhuoan. Whoever can capture Zhuoan will be able to obtain the map fragment. However, the experts hidden in the shadows did not dare to act rashly. This was because they restrained each other. If one of them made the first move, the others would definitely make a move as well. At that time, it would cause an unprecedented chaotic battle. It seems that Old Man Ming Deng, Blood Beauty, and Yun Chunzi have joined forces. They actually warned us that we are not allowed to enter Wujin mountain range in 3 days. The moment we enter Wujin mountain range, they will immediately attack us. In a luxurious box in Zhaotian City, an old man with a vigorous aura slammed his hand on the table with a malicious expression. Only he saw a golden envelope lying quietly on the table. When the envelope was opened, some words were written on it. There were 4 people in the box. Other than the old man, there was another middle-aged man whose aura was not weaker than the old man's. Apart outside, Shuju and Ziyu were in a private room. Their faces were extremely gloomy. If I'm not wrong, the 3 of them must have sent a notice to all the people from the super domains. This is a trap that Bright Lamp Old Man and the other 2 set for us. Moreover, we have no choice but to fall into this trap, Shuju said with a bitter smile. It is clearly stated in the letter that this is an internal affair of the newer realm, and we are all outsiders. Therefore, we should not meddle in their internal conflict. Once anyone made a move, they would immediately be surrounded and attacked. We are very passive now. What should we do next? Ziyu frowned. Void Day had a headache. Although there were many super realm experts who had come to the newer realm this time, they all had their own agendas and did not trust each other. These guys who were hiding in the dark were all very smart. No one would be the one who stood out. This was a thankless job. Are the Bright Lamp Old Man and the others crazy? What's in it for them? Once this notice is released, even the 3 of them can't enter Wujin Mountains. Everyone has become their own supervisor. Ziyu didn't understand Old Man Ming Deng and the other 2's actions. The 3 of them must have reached some kind of agreement with the newer clan's woman. For example, after capturing Zhuoan, they would hand him over to them to deal with. This is also why the 3 of them dared to so blatantly warn all of us. If everyone doesn't move, it's actually beneficial to them, Shuju said. Then let's quickly reveal Old Man Ming Deng and the other 2's purpose. Let the others unite and ignore their warnings. Then, won't we regain the initiative? Ziyu hurriedly said. Shuju sighed. Brother Ziyu, if we can think of this, do you think the others can't? This is an open conspiracy. We know it's a trap, but we still have to fall into it. Those guys hiding in the dark don't care about Zhuoan at all. In their eyes, Zhuoan is just an ant that they can casually crush. As long as the other super realm experts don't enter, it doesn't matter if the newer realm experts enter Wujin Mountains, because they knew very well that Zhuoan would definitely fall into the hands of those cultivators from the newer realm in the end. As they are also from a super realm, all they need to do is to bide their time and guard the exit of Black Gold Mountain Range. Once someone captures Zhuoan, they only need to say something. Do you think those cultivators from newer realm will dare to resist us, who are from a super realm? Even the newer wouldn't dare to offend so many super realm experts at the same time. Old man Ming Deng sighed. He sighed softly and said, Shuju's analysis is very correct. The warning that old man Ming Deng and the other two gave just happened to strike at the hearts of those fellows hiding in the shadows. It gave us the illusion that staying put would be fair to everyone, so no one came out to oppose old man Ming Deng and the other two's warning. Instead, they tacitly accepted this invisible warning. In fact, old man Ming Deng and the other two probably have some kind of secret plan. It's just that I haven't thought of it yet. But all in all, biding our time with the others has made us very passive. Shuju said with a frown. Compared to the others, we have an advantage. After all, we have an agreement with Zhuowen. As long as we make contact with him first, the map fragment will be at our fingertip. Old man Ming Deng suddenly said. Actually, we have already made contact with Zhuowen. At that time, we had already asked him for the map fragment, but he refused. Unless we can bring him out safely, he won't easily hand over the map fragment, Ziyu said somewhat angrily. Old man Ming Deng and the middle-aged man frowned. They thought that Zhuowen really didn't know what was good for him. If he had handed over the map fragment to Shuju and Ziyu earlier, they wouldn't have to be so distressed now. Little did they know that they didn't even consider Zhuowen's life or death. Obviously, in their eyes, Zhuowen's life was not worth anything. The map fragment should be handed over to them as soon as they obtained it. How laughable. The only thing we can do now is to think of a way to help Zhuowen escape. Old man Ming Deng sighed. He sighed and took out a palm-sized bead. This bead was similar to an eyeball. Not only did it have a white eye and pupil, but it also looked very lively, as if it was a living eyeball. The black pupil was constantly moving left and right, as if it was sizing up the surrounding environment. Eyes of the void. I didn't expect you to have this thing. The middle-aged man looked at the bead in old man Ming Deng's hand with shock in his eyes. The eyes of the void was extremely expensive. Using the eyes of the void, one could merge into the void, ignore any restrictions, and travel through the void from a long distance. The only drawback of the eyes of the void was that it was a one-time consumable item. It would break after one use. This was an escape tool. Ancient starlight experts would all prepare one to save their lives at a critical moment. This item could even save the life of an ancient starlight expert. From this, it could be seen how valuable it was. Shuju looked at old man Ming Deng with some surprise. He obviously didn't expect old man Ming Deng to have the eyes of the void. Darren secretly gave this to me. Gongzi, he still cares about you. Old man Ming Deng looked at Shuju with a complicated expression and said hesitantly. Shuju seemed to think of something. He fell silent and said with an ugly expression, then use this eyes of the void. Chapter 4283. Gongzi, the eye of the void is very important. That Darren gave it to me to save your life. The old man said hesitantly. Shuju shook his head. It's fine. I have my own means of escaping. I don't need his things. The old man hesitated for a moment and nodded. With the eye of the void, we only need to come into contact with Zhuowen. But the eye of the void is too precious. It's too risky to let others bring it in. Ziyu's eyes flickered. Give the eye of the void to me. I will arrange for people to enter the Wujin Mountains and deliver it to Zhuowen. Suddenly, a clear and melodious female voice came from behind the curtain. It was like a stream that slowly flowed through everyone's hearts. Shuju, Ziyu, and the others heard the female voice. Their expressions immediately became dignified and respectful. They all bowed towards the curtain. Darren, who do you plan to send into the Wujin Mountains? Is this person reliable? Shuju asked carefully. Don't worry. The people I send are trustworthy. Give the eye of the void to me. The female voice sounded again. Big. The four people in the hall looked at each other, but they didn't dare to refute the woman's orders. They handed the eye of the void to the curtain. All right. If you have nothing else, you can leave. The female voice sounded again. This time, she was asking them to leave. Shuju and the others laughed bitterly, and then they bowed and left the pavilion. While the outside world was in a state of panic, Zhuowen was sitting in the black bone wasteland and silently cultivating. He could already feel that he was getting closer and closer to breaking through. 1. 2 days. 3 days. 3 days later, Zhuowen, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. A blazing light flashed through his eyes. Only he slowly stood up. A terrifying storm rose from his body and lingered around him. The aura in his body had reached an extremely terrifying level. Clang! The aura surging out of Zhuowen's body reached its peak. A terrifying black hole appeared in the sky above his head. Every single even the black hole was giving birth to terrifying tribulation energy. Black. The number of holes increased. Dozens of them appeared in an instant. The sky was completely corroded by the darkness. The originally bright sky suddenly fell into darkness, and the earth also completely sank into endless darkness. The only source of light was the light emitted by the calamity that was brewing in the depths of the black hole. No. In the distance, Shan Lingyun, Xiao He, and Shua, who were originally protecting Zhuowen. They were all nervously huddled together. Oh my God! I. Heavenbreaker burst into tears, and bean-sized teardrops rolled down his cheeks in an unending stream. You popped out of a rock. How could you have a mother? You're looking for your mother. Xiao He cursed. His face was frighteningly gloomy. Grandpa He, hold me tight. I'm so scared. This calamity will definitely strike me to death. Shapotian spoke incoherently. Like an octopus, he hugged Xiao He tightly and wouldn't let go no matter what. Hey, kid. Don't make a fuss. You are not the one who is going through the calamity. It is my disciple. Shan Lingyun glanced at Shapotian coldly and said disdainfully. Shapotian, who was originally scared out of his wits, regained his senses. He hurriedly let go of Xiao He. He touched the snot under his nostrils and the tear stains on his cheeks. He said in shock and fear, I see. So I am not the one who is going through the calamity. I was wondering. This calamity is so weak. How could it be the calamity of the talented me? After saying that, Shapotian glanced at Shan Lingyun from the corner of his eyes. He even pretended to be an expert with his hands behind his back. That small figure with his hands behind his back was really out of place. Xiao He could not help but laugh out loud. You two enter the parallel dimension first. Potian, take control of the greater world and go as far away as you can. Otherwise, you'll all be caught up in the crossfire. Wen's expression was solemn. He instructed the three of them who were still fooling around and kept them in the parallel dimension. Xiao He stayed in the Taiyu sacred sword and hung on Zhuowen's waist. Under Shapotian's control, the parallel dimension turned into a speck of dust and quickly left the black bone wasteland. Not long after the parallel dimension left the black bone wasteland, a terrifying calamity energy formed by the fusion of lightning and fire suddenly blasted down from the sky. It heavily struck the vast and boundless land. A deafening sound reverberated between heaven and earth. The huge black bone wasteland was blasted open. It was so huge that it almost divided the entire wasteland into two regions. Strong gales swept out in all directions in a ring-shaped manner. The macro world, which was not far away from the Blackbone wilderness, was also affected. It began to tremble violently, as if it would collapse at any time. Damn it! This is just the beginning, and the calamity is already so terrifying. Master, will he be all right? In the parallel dimension, Shapotian, who had barely stabilized the parallel dimension, had a lingering fear on his face. He could not help but ask worriedly. Shut your King Big Head, shut your crow's beak. If anything happens to my disciple, I will chop you up first. Shan Lingyun patted Shapotian's head and said rudely with her hands on her hips. Shapotian shrank his head and laughed. Master is so powerful. Of course he will be fine. I was just joking. The terrifying lightning and fire descended. Zhuowen did not dare to be negligent. Purple gold divine power surged out from his body and directly collided with the lightning and fire in a barbaric manner. Boom! The moment the two collided, the lightning and fire were like maggots in a tarsal bone. They bombarded Zhuowen's body fiercely and burned him. The lightning and fire enveloped his entire body and swam rapidly around his body. Zhuowen let out a muffled groan and fell to the ground in a sorry state. His expression became rather solemn and sorry. I did not expect my great universe calamity to be so terrifying. Zhuowen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at the black holes in the sky and the terrifying light of calamity flashed in them. His eyes were filled with bitterness. This was just the beginning, and he was already injured. It looked like he had to give it his all. Otherwise, he might die in this great universe calamity. Boom! Suddenly, the terrifying calamity swept out from the dozens of black holes again. This time, it was not lightning and fire but wind and thunder energy. In an instant, Wen's eyes were filled with sharp wind blades and ear-piercing thunder energy. Wen's eyes were fearless. He flew out again and pulled out the Taiyu sacred sword from his waist. He soared into the sky. His aura became even more vast and powerful. At this moment, he was like a peerless divine sword that had been unsheathed. While Zhuowen was struggling to overcome the great universe calamity, a passage to the Golden Crow mountain range appeared in the sky above the huge square in Clear Sky City. With the efforts of the 7 city lords, they finally opened the entrance to the Golden Crow mountain range 3 days later. They also removed the restrictions on the ancient star transformation cultivators in the Golden Crow mountain range. This was also the busiest day in Clear Sky City. There were many cultivators gathered around the central square. There was no lack of powerful Dharma power cultivators among them. Chapter 4284. Everyone, the passageway to Golden Crow Mountain has been reopened. There are no longer any restrictions on cultivation. Anyone who wants to enter Golden Crow Mountain can do so. In the middle of the square, Chen Zhao stood at the front. He was full of energy as he spoke to the people around him. Everyone knows that the reason why we have reopened Golden Crow Mountain is all because of Zhuowen. This man is cruel and merciless. He slaughtered most of the contestants in Golden Crow Mountain and broke the rules of the Big Hunt. Due to his guilty conscience, he did not dare to leave Golden Crow Mountain and is currently hiding somewhere in Golden Crow Mountain, struggling to survive. The 7 major cities have always enforced the law impartially. Since Zhuowen has committed such a huge crime, we will not sit by and do nothing. I don't think any of you will let him go just like that. Now, I have reopened the passageway to give all of you a chance to take revenge. However, before that, I would like to remind all of you. This man's strength is not simple. Those whose cultivation is below the Qian Kuan tribulation should not join in the fun. Chen Zhao spoke slowly. Although his voice was not loud, everyone in the square could still hear him clearly. Just as Chen Zhao finished speaking, the impatient crowd in the square rushed into the newly reopened passageway like a swarm of locusts. He did not care about Chen Zhao's reminder. All of them could not wait any longer. Zhuowen had mercilessly killed their disciples. Right now, they wished they could immediately find Zhuowen and tear him into pieces. Of course, there were also some shrewd people who wanted to take advantage of the situation. They already knew that Zhuowen had entered 7 Emotions and 6 Desires Mountain and was suspected to have obtained the treasures of the Saint Lord of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires. These people did not have pure intentions. They wanted to snatch the treasures of the Saint Lord of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires from Zhuowen. In a private room on the top floor of a tall building not far from the square, the beautiful woman sat quietly by the window. Her beautiful eyes were looking at the square not far away. Shen Yu and Jian Luo stood quietly behind the beautiful woman. My lady. Although Zhuowen and Duan Jipeng are partners, Duan Jipeng is not stupid. He should know that it's a trap as soon as we spread the news. It's quite unlikely that he'd risk his life to enter Black Gold Mountain Range to save Zhuowen. God Bless could not help but ask. God Bless guessed that Duan Jipeng was trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone after Duan Jipeng ordered her men to spread the news that everyone was attacking Zhuowen. However, God Bless did not believe that Duan Jipeng would risk his life to save Zhuowen. Female Jun smiled faintly and said, even if Duan Jipeng abandons Zhuowen's life without a care, it's also within my plan. After hearing the news, Even if he doesn't come to save Zhuoan, he will probably panic and take this opportunity to escape from the 7 major cities. You have to know that all the cultivators in the 7 great cities are eyeing Zhuoan right now. No one would leave the 7 great cities at this juncture. The person who will leave will most likely be Duan Jipeng. God bless, and Zhen Luo were shocked. It was no wonder they realized that the beautiful woman had been setting up so many ambushes around the 7 cities for the past 3 days. It turned out that she had considered such a situation. As expected of Lady June. No matter if Duan Jipeng saves Zhuoan or not, he'll be exposed. He's already a sitting duck, Zhen Luo said in admiration. Suddenly, the beautiful woman's pupils shrunk slowly while the aura on her body became violent. Shen Yu and Zhen Luo immediately sensed the change in the beautiful woman's aura. They were puzzled. I can't believe that Duan Jipeng showed up. It seems like this person is close to Zhuoan. I can't believe that he has the guts to save Zhuoan at this critical moment. The beautiful woman fixed her gaze on a silhouette in the square and revealed a smirk at the corner of her lips. God bless, and Zhen Luo were shocked. They followed the beautiful woman's gaze and saw a suspicious silhouette at the edge of the square. The person was covered in a black robe with a huge hood. They could not see his face clearly and even his aura was concealed. Although Yu and Zhen Luo had seen Duan Jipeng before, they could not confirm that this person was Duan Jipeng just by looking at his back. However, they did not doubt the beautiful woman's words because her senses were much sharper than theirs. Even the clan venerable had praised the beautiful woman's terrifying senses. As long as the beautiful woman had her eyes on someone, she would never be wrong. I'll stop him. God bless was about to attack but was stopped by the beautiful woman. Hold on. I've already informed the 7 city governors. They'll stop this person for us. The beautiful woman stopped God bless and said. Shen Yu looked again. As expected, the silhouette that they suspected was stopped by the 7 city governors. Shen Chen Zhao looked at the man who was covered in a black robe coldly and asked, "Fellow cultivator, have we met before?" The black-robed man frowned slightly and lowered his head. He said in a raspy voice, "Fellow cultivator, I think you've got the wrong person. We've never met before." The black-robed man planned to go around Chen Zhao but was stopped by Ling Luo who was behind Chen Zhao. "Fellow Daoist, take off your hood and let us see your face." Ling Luo's words were filled with an unquestionable tone as he spoke coldly. "Hey, isn't this too much? Do I have to be interrogated after entering the Golden Crow mountain range? Are all the 7 city governors unreasonable?" The black-robed man said unhappily. "It's not that we're unreasonable but you're too suspicious. Otherwise, why don't you take off your hood?" Fen Xin crossed her arms and looked at the black-robed man coldly. "All right, I'll take off my hood and show you." The black-robed man scoffed and grabbed the edge of his hood with his right hand. He was about to lift his hood. Shen Zhao and the other city governors let out a sigh of relief. However, something unexpected happened at that moment. The 7 city governors were shocked. Just as the black-robed man's right hand grabbed the brim of his hat and was about to lift the hood, his left hand shot out like lightning, and a divine blade silently appeared in his left palm. Rip! Rip! Suddenly, the black-robed man held the sword in his left hand and swung it horizontally. The terrifying sword energy was like a terrifying storm that swept out and slashed towards Chen Zhao and the other city governors. The attack was too sudden. The black-robed man had attacked at the right time and Chen Zhao and the rest did not expect it at all. For a moment, Chen Zhao and the other 6 were caught off guard. They hurriedly used their transcendent's divine power to defend against the saber that came out of nowhere. After Chen Zhao and the other city governors were forced back by the unexpected attack, the black-robed man did not attack again. Instead, he took a step forward and used a mysterious movement technique to rush towards the Golden Crow mountain range tunnel behind the 7 city governors. "Damn it, stop him!" Chen shouted. Zhao and the other city governors were furious. However, they were powerless at that moment. They had just been forced back by the sword energy and did not have any energy left to stop the black-robed man. The black-robed man was extremely fast and appeared at the entrance of the tunnel in the blink of an eye. Just as he was about to rush into the passage in one go, he had an ominous feeling in his heart. He stopped abruptly and retreated tens of meters back. Only a terrifying attack had appeared on the ground where he had been standing. It had blasted open a terrifying trench and hole. Chapter 4285. After the black-robed man retreated some distance, he realized that the person who attacked him was a man in a feathered robe and a crown on his head. At the feathered-robed man's side was a quiet, middle-aged man who was carrying a sword case on his back. The two of them were Shen Yu and Jian Luo, who had been hiding in a room nearby. The moment the black-robed man attacked, the two of them attacked under the command of the handsome girl. Seeing that his path was blocked, the black-robed man knew that it was impossible for him to enter Golden Crow Mountain Range again. Only just when he thought of retreating, he realized that Chen Zhao, Ling Luo, and the rest of the 7 governors had blocked his path of retreat. Duan Jipeng, we already knew that it was you. Why are you being so secretive? Shen Yu's eyes were glowing with a red glow as he spoke arrogantly. Clang. At the beginning, he'd almost died at the hands of Duan Jipeng and Zhuo Wen, so his hatred towards the two of them could be said to be surging like the tide, and he wished for nothing more than to hack Duan Jipeng and Zhuo Wen into 1,000 pieces. Chen Zhao and the rest of the 7 governors were shocked. Of course, they had heard of Duan Jipeng. After all, the news of Duan Jipeng snatching the Dark Chakra Eye had spread across the entire Nuer territory. The Nuer tribe had even issued an arrest warrant for him. Back then, the matter had caused a huge uproar. Only they did not expect Duan Jipeng to come to their 7 cities. Moreover, he wanted to enter Golden Crow Mountain Range. They could not understand why. If he was an ordinary person, he would have fled as far as he could with the Dark Chakra Eye. Why would he come to Golden Crow Mountain Range to seek his own death? The black-robed man kept quiet for a moment and finally spoke. I can't believe that all of you managed to recognize me. Then, the black-robed man lifted his hood and revealed a handsome face. It was Duan Jipeng. Ever since Zhuowen entered Golden Crow Mountain Range to participate in the big hunt, Duan Jipeng had been meditating in the inn. At the same time, he was waiting for news of Zhuowen's return. However, after waiting for a long time, he received orders from the 7 governors to target Zhuowen. The development of the situation was beyond his imagination. Zhuowen had slaughtered most of the participants in the Wujin Mountain Range. He had even slaughtered the top 3 geniuses on the Outer Realm heavenly ranking. He had to admit that Zhuowen's way of doing things was admirable. However, he was also extremely worried about Zhuowen's situation. After killing so many contestants, how could the powerhouses behind them sit still? Once the big hunt was over, Zhuowen would become the target of public criticism and would die without a burial place. When the 7 city lords announced that they were going to open the entrance to the Golden Crow Mountain Range and allow all cultivators to enter, he could no longer sit still. He knew that he had to enter the Black Gold Mountain Range and inform Zhuowen of this matter, so that he could prepare to escape. Only then would he have a chance of survival. Otherwise, he would definitely die. Only he never thought that he would be recognized just as he was about to sneak in. Duan Jipeng, are you still not going to surrender? You won't be able to run away from us now. God bless smirked. Forgive me for not being able to comply. After Ji Peng finished speaking, he used his movement technique and rushed towards the 7 city lords behind him. You must have a death wish. Seeing that Duan Jipeng was coming towards him, Zhao sneered in his heart and immediately summoned his cosmic form. There were 7 cosmic form experts here. He was impressed by Duan Jipeng's courage for daring to come towards them. Therefore, the remaining 6 city lords summoned their cosmic forms as well. They would not underestimate Duan Jipeng. After all, this guy was a cosmic form expert and he even had a complete astral weapon with him. His ability was not to be underestimated. Only when the 7 city lords summoned their cosmic forms and waited for Duan Jipeng to walk into their trap, Duan Jipeng suddenly stomped his foot in the air and dashed in the opposite direction at an even faster speed. *T, we've been tricked. His real target is the entrance to the Golden Crow Mountain Range, Zhao shouted. His face became very ugly. He had already been tricked twice by Duan Jipeng, and he couldn't hold on to his face any longer. Only yes, Duan Jipeng's speed was too fast and they had just realized what was going on. It was too late to chase after him now. Just in time, Shun Yu's fighting spirit soared as he summoned his cosmic form immediately. His cosmic form had a human head and a snake body. He held a divine mace in his left hand and a lotus lamp in his right hand. He looked solemn like a bodhisattva. Duan Jipeng did not dare to hold back at all. He had to end the battle quickly and break through Shun Yu and Jian Luo's blockade. He had to rush to the entrance of the Golden Crow mountain range as soon as possible to avoid being surrounded by the 7 city lords who had realized what was going on. Duan Jipeng did not slow down as his gigantic cosmic form appeared in the air behind him. Duan Jipeng's cosmic form was covered in ferocious armor while he held a gigantic blue divine sword in his right hand. After Duan Jipeng merged with his cosmic form, he charged towards Shun Yu and Jian Luo violently. Just in time, Shun Yu roared as his gigantic cosmic form collided with Duan Jipeng's cosmic form. As the blue divine sword and the mace collided, the entire space shook as if it was going to collapse. Invisible energy ripples spread in all directions in a circular manner. Both of them were at the early stage of cosmic form. They were evenly matched in a head-on collision. No. However, due to the fact that God Bless was severely injured earlier and had yet to fully recover, he was at a disadvantage in the collision. Slash the spring water. The moment Shun Yu was suppressed, Jian Luo, who was standing nearby, did not stand aside. Instead, he tapped the sword case on his back softly with his right hand. The sword sheath opened slightly, and a sharp and oppressive sword chi rushed out unscrupulously, as if it wanted to pierce through the sky. Slash. A palm-sized emerald green sword shot out. As soon as the sword was swung, terrifying energy ripples spread out in the air and headed straight for Duan Jipeng. Jian Luo's ability was above Shun Yu as his cultivation level was at the mid-stage of cosmic form. Although he did not perform his cosmic form, the sword attack was still powerful. Naturally, Duan Jipeng dared not take Jian Luo's attack head-on. He forced Shun Yu to step back with a swing of his sword and grabbed his waist with his left hand. A cold gleam gleamed as he pulled out his second divine sword. Bang! Slash! The sword collided with the divine sword. The tiny sword that seemed much smaller than the divine sword seemed to contain endless power, forcing Duan Jipeng to take 3 steps back. Duan Jipeng saw that the 7 city lords behind him were about to surround him completely. He knew that he didn't have that much time, so he didn't even think about it before activating his dark chakra eye. The moment Duan Jipeng performed the dark chakra that looked like a real eye, Shun Yu, who was fighting with Duan Jipeng in front, shuddered out of reflex and retreated immediately. Shun Yu looked at the dark chakra floating in front of Duan Jipeng in fear. He was almost killed by the dark chakra back then. Now that he was naturally, he was scared when he saw it again. Duan Jipeng as Jipeng activated the dark chakra, 2 beams of crimson light shot out from the depths of the dark chakra's pupils. They were aimed at Shun Yu and Jian Luo respectively. Shun Yu's face turned pale. He no longer cared about stopping Duan Jipeng and began to run for his life. While Jian Luo focused his gaze and took a step forward. A gigantic cosmic form consolidated behind him. Chapter 4286. Jian Luo's cosmic idol was the same as his. It wasn't very outstanding, and it even looked very ordinary. It also had the head of a human and the body of a snake, but it looked more like a downtrodden swordsman. It was far from being as dazzling as the god-blessed cosmic idol. However, Duan Jipeng could feel how powerful Jian Luo's cosmic idol was. Sword Jian Luo fused with his cosmic idol, and a huge illusory sword box gradually appeared behind the cosmic idol. First sword cleaving spring water. Jian Luo's voice was as calm as ever. As soon as he said this, a crack appeared in the sword box on his back, and a huge emerald green divine sword rushed out. Although it was the same move, after using his cosmic idol, Jian Luo's first sword cleaving spring water was much more terrifying. In other words, this was the true might of the first sword cleaving spring water. Jade, the emerald green divine sword cut through the void like a surging spring water, revealing its extraordinariness within its extraordinariness. Clang! The emerald green sword light slammed into the scarlet light, and sword chi surged like a tornado, stacking layer by layer until it erupted with the strongest sword intent. Although the scarlet light was domineering and terrifying, it actually stopped in front of the emerald green sword light. Although the time it stopped was very short, it still managed to stop the scarlet light for a moment. Second sword cleaving sun and stars. Jian Luo's expression became much more serious. Facing the scarlet light, he had no choice but to retreat as he used his second divine ability. The sword box on his back opened even wider, and an even bigger divine sword flew out. This sword's body was a mixture of gold and blue. This sword was incomparably sharp, and it felt as if the sun and stars were about to be cut down by it. And the sword light emitted by this sword was even sharper and more dazzling, and nothing could compete with it. This time, the scarlet light was stopped by the second divine ability for a few breaths of time, which greatly exceeded Duan Jipeng's expectations. Jian Luo retreated again, but his face was deathly pale, and blood was flowing out from the corner of his mouth. As expected of my race's supreme treasure, the Dark Chakra Eye. It's just the most basic attack, but my two swords are unable to stop it. The only thing we can do now is use the third sword. Jian Luo's eyes flashed with determination. He slowly raised his right hand and curled his right index finger. A terrifying fluctuation naturally surged out from the tip of his finger. Then, the sword box on his back suddenly trembled violently. An unparalleled aura surged out from the sword sheath, as if a demon god was about to rush out from the sword sheath. The surrounding atmosphere instantly became much more solemn and terrifying. Just as Jian Luo was about to unleash his third sword strike, a slender figure appeared before him. A jade-white hand gently grasped Jian Luo's right hand. Jian Luo, your third sword will take your life. You don't need to use this sword yet. A cold voice sounded faintly. Jian Luo raised his head in a daze as he looked at the elegant woman before him. He nodded lightly before withdrawing his right hand. The woman who came to stop Jian Luo was none other than Nanu, who had been hiding in the shadows for a long time. Only seeing that Nanu's beautiful eyes were rather solemn, she waved her sleeve, and an aura that was far more powerful than Jian Luo and God blesses surged out. The scarlet light that was charging at Jian Luo stopped when it was a few feet away from Nanu. Then, it slowly dissipated. Nanu. After Nanu dealt with the scarlet light that was charging at Jian Luo, God bless, who was still running for his life, rushed over and hid behind Nanu. Nanu. Nanu glanced coldly at God bless, who was trembling behind her. After cursing him for being a good-for-nothing, she waved her sleeve and destroyed the scarlet light that was chasing after God bless. I didn't expect you to be able to release 2 Dark Chakra Blood Thunderbolts at once. Although that's the most basic attack of the Dark Chakra Eye, it's extremely draining on your body. You're only at the beginner stage of the universe's Dharma form. You must have reached your limit to be able to release 2 Dark Chakra Blood Thunderbolts at once, Nanu said softly as she lifted her beautiful eyes and looked at Duan Jipeng, who was pale and bloodless, who was not far away. Duan Jipeng looked terrible. Initially, he planned to charge into the passageway that led to the Black Gold Mountain range while God Bless and Jian Luo were being held back by the 2 Scarlet Light. However, unfortunately, Nanu's appearance had completely disrupted his plan. He looked at the 7 castellans behind him who were blocking his escape route. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of his lips as he knew that he did not even have the chance to run now. Now, he was surrounded by a total of 10 universe's Dharma form powerhouses, including Nanu, who was at the pinnacle of the universe's Dharma form powerhouse. He had reached the point where there was no way out for him now. The 7 castellans blocked Duan Jipeng's escape route, but none of them dared to take him down. They looked at the Dark Chakra Eye that was hovering next to Duan Jipeng with fear. It was a complete stellar weapon that the newer clan regarded as their ultimate treasure. Its power was extremely terrifying. The 7 castellans were not from the newer clan. Naturally, they would not put themselves in danger just because of Nanu's order. Hand over the Dark Chakra Eye, bind your hands, and follow me back to the newer clan obediently, Nanu said calmly. Duan Jipeng did not speak. He held the dark chakra eye with his right hand and poured his godly power into it. Duan, the dark chakra eye seemed to become more agile as it shot out scarlet rays of light again. Furthermore, the scarlet light that shot out this time was even more dangerous than before. Its power was also a lot stronger. Duan Jipeng's face turned even paler. Blood even flowed out of the corner of his mouth and down his neck. Nanu's beautiful eyes turned even colder. She raised her sleeve again, and a blazing golden light gathered in her right palm and blasted it out. The radiance collided with the scarlet light, and an ear-piercing crackling sound rang out. After that, the beautiful woman could not help but take 2 steps back. However, that thick and solid scarlet light was also annihilated by her. Stubborn fool. Nanu was a little angry. She did not waste any more words and flew out, appearing in the air above Duan Jipeng. Her right hand formed a palm and slammed down, aiming for Duan Jipeng's Qianling acupoint. Duan Jipeng was in a very bad state. Too much of his godly power had been used up by the dark chakra eye. Even his consciousness was a little blurry. He could only raise his hands and block the attack. Crack. F***ck. Ching, the crisp sound of bones cracking was heard as Nanu slammed her palm down. Duan Jipeng fell to the ground, creating a huge crater. Fart. Duan Jipeng spat out a mouthful of blood. His hands were completely twisted and covered in blood. He was completely crippled by Nanu's palm. However, his right palm held the dark chakra eye tightly. Take the dark chakra eye from his hand, Nanu ordered calmly. Naturally, Shen dared not disobey. He landed next to Duan Jipeng and stepped on Duan Jipeng's hand. Duan Jipeng groaned in pain, but he did not let go. He glared at Shen fiercely. "You're not letting go?" Shen asked. Shen had been suppressing his anger for a long time. He kicked Duan Jipeng with his right foot without hesitation. Every kick contained powerful godly power. Shen was bleeding profusely, and the meridians in his body began to rupture. As for Duan Jipeng's cosmic avatar, it could no longer be maintained due to his heavy injuries and had dissipated. God Bless only managed to snatch the dark chakra eye from Duan Jipeng with all his might. Before he left, he did not forget to kick Duan Jipeng a few times, causing him to groan in pain. Chapter 4287. Be gentle. Don't kill him. He's still useful. Seeing that Shen Yu was being merciless to Duan Jipeng, Jun could not help but frown. God Yu hurriedly bowed and handed the dark chakra eye to Jun Yu with both hands. Jun Yu took the dark chakra eye and inspected it. A smile appeared on her face. She had finally found the dark chakra eye that she had lost for so many years. Shen Yu, Jian Luo, the two of you have made a great contribution. After capturing Zhuoan, I will report to the great clan leader when the two of you return to the newer clan. He will reward the two of you handsomely, Jun Yu said with a smile. God Yu was trembling with excitement. With Jun Yu's words, he did not put on an act for nothing. Jian Luo, on the other hand, nodded calmly. He did not seem to be interested in the reward from the great clan leader. Take Duan Jipeng away. Jian Luo, you will be in charge of guarding him. Jun Yu ordered the silent Jian Luo. Jun Yu knew that Shen Yu held a grudge against Duan Jipeng. If Shen Yu was allowed to guard Duan Jipeng, he would definitely harm Duan Jipeng. If Duan Jipeng was killed, her plan would be ruined. Sword Jun Yu nodded. Divine power surged out and restrained the half-dead Duan Jipeng. Then, he carried him and followed Jun Yu back to the room in the pavilion near the plaza. Swoosh, swoosh. They entered Zhaotian City from the Wujin mountain range. It was located at the northeast edge of the Wujin mountain range. At this moment, numerous figures rushed out from the passageway. They were densely packed in the sky, like a swarm of locusts passing through. Look. What's that? What a huge commotion. What a terrifying aura. Suddenly, someone looked at the sky in the distance. Over there, in the depths of the sky, numerous terrifying black holes hung in the sky, and within those black holes, extremely terrifying calamities rained down without restraint. Terror-frightening explosions continuously resounded. The extremely large area in the distance had completely turned into a calamity hell. It was as though no one was allowed to enter. Is that the great universal calamity? Zhuoan must have broken through and is undergoing the calamity there. Great universal calamity? Are you kidding me? Have you ever seen such a terrifying great cosmic tribulation? Why do I feel like this tribulation wasn't as terrifying as the one I faced when I faced the cosmic Dharma idol tribulation? Fear and dread filled the eyes of the many powerhouses who had entered the Golden Crow mountain range when they sensed the terrifying calamity in the distance. Namely, even though they were quite far away, they could still feel the terror and power of the calamity in the distance. Let's go and take a look. If that Zhuoan is really transcending the tribulation, it will give us a chance. We can attack him from afar and interfere with his tribulation, killing him in the process. The one who spoke was a middle-aged Confucian scholar with a tall crown on his head. His face was covered with fine wrinkles, showing the traces of time. The middle-aged scholar's name was Do Ku, and he was the leader of the Beacon Fire Academy's team. At the same time, he was the father of Do Shunxiao, who had been killed by Zhuoan. After knowing that Do Shunxiao was killed by Zhuoan, Do Ku already hated Zhuoan. He only wanted to tear Zhuoan into pieces to pay tribute to his dead child. Sinus, as soon as he said this, everyone around nodded in agreement. Feng, after all, the Beacon Fire Academy was one of the 7 superpowers in the newer realm, and Do Ku was better at strategy than strength. His suggestion was the most reasonable. Although there were many powerhouses who had entered the Golden Crow mountain range this time, these powerhouses were all led by the powerhouses of the 7 superpowers, and no one dared to stand out. In front of these powerhouses, there were 7 very dazzling figures. They were Shu Da from the 5 Immortals Divine Sect, Liu Qingchen from the Moon-Chopping Saint Pavilion, Mo Lan from the Tathagata Buddhist Sect, Mo Lan from the Boundless Demon Sect, Do Ku from the Beacon Fire Academy, Huan Ri from the Water Moon Illusory House, and Yu from the 3 Wardens Prison. While Shu Da, Liu Qingchen, and the other 5 agreed with Do Ku's suggestion, and no one objected. The elites of the 7 superpowers had all been killed by Zhuoan, and they all hated Zhuoan to the core. Now, they couldn't wait to cut Zhuoan into pieces. They didn't care how Zhuoan died, as long as he died. Of course, some of them had other ideas. In addition to killing Zhuoan, they also wanted to take the treasures of the Saint Lord of 7 Emotions and 6 Desires from Zhuoan. They were all shrewd people. When the handsome girl personally came to the 7 big cities, and when the 7 Emotions 6 Desires mountain suddenly exploded in the Black Gold mountain range, they connected it to the series of actions of the 7 big city lords who ordered people to surround and kill Zhuoan. He had already guessed that Zhuoan must have a huge secret, and it was very likely that he had obtained the treasures and inheritance of the 7 Emotions and 6 Desires mountain range. Black Lotus followed behind Mo Lan, and her beautiful eyes were full of anxiety. She kept sending messages to Mo Lan, asking him to withdraw from the team that was besieging Zhuoan. Only Mo Lan didn't take Black Lotus's words seriously at all. Instead, he thought that Black Lotus was too much of a hindrance, so he waved his hand and sent him out of the Golden Crow mountain range. Oh, this is really rare. Your Boundless Demon Sect's Black Lotus is famous for being cold and heartless. Why is she speaking up for Zhuoan this time? Could it be that she has fallen in love with him? Liu Qingchen of the Moon-Slaying Sacred Pavilion said sarcastically when she saw Black Lotus being sent out by Mo Lan. 7 among the major forces, the strongest geniuses of the other 6 forces had all died, and only Black Lotus of the Boundless Demon Sect was still alive. Liu Qingchen was actually quite jealous. No. Liu Qingchen was the only one. The rest of the experts of the other 7 forces looked at Mo Lan with disgust. Mo Lan was expressionless and said, "Black Lotus is just lucky." Liu Qingchen sneered. She naturally didn't believe Mo Lan's words. She knew that there must be something hidden, but since Mo Lan didn't want to say it, there was nothing she could do. Humph. Black Lotus is really becoming more and more rebellious. So what if Zhuoan helped her in the Golden Crow mountain range? He just has evil intentions. He must die. Mo Lan's eyes were malicious as he thought to himself. Everyone, let's go together. This guy's heaven and earth tribulation is not simple. We don't need to get too close. We only need to attack from afar to disturb him. He definitely won't be able to survive this tribulation. Doku suddenly shouted and waved his arm, which attracted enthusiastic responses from the crowd. Then, this group of experts, led by the experts of the other 7 forces, headed toward the abyssal bone wasteland in the depths of the Golden Crow mountain range. At this moment, the abyssal bone wasteland had been filled with apocalyptic tribulations, and it had become a forbidden area for life. Numerous bottomless pits were blasted open on the entire expanse of the wasteland by the numerous tribulations, and numerous hideous and deep ravines were even lined up in row upon row on the ground. It seemed to be riddled with holes, and it was a horrifying sight. After, when Wei defended against the first wave of thunder and fire tribulation, the second wave of thunder and fire tribulation came one after another. This second wave of thunder and fire tribulation was no longer thunder and fire tribulation, but huge meteorites. These meteorites were extremely extraordinary, and they were much larger than ordinary stars. The surface of the meteorites was as bright as gold, flashing with extremely bright golden light that illuminated the heavens and the earth. Chapter 4288. Boom. In the blink of an eye, the first meteorite crashed into Zhuowen's face. Zhuowen did not dare to be careless. He gripped the hilt of the Taiyu sacred sword tightly with his right hand and slashed out, using the heaven and earth primordial A line of heaven and earth. Only the surface of the Taiyu sacred sword burst out with 3 strange colors, purple, black, and gold. Then, it turned into a sword chi that pierced through the heavens and earth, slashing at the meteorite. Linked to Zhuowen's surprise, the falling meteorite was only stopped by the sword chi for a few breaths of time. It actually annihilated the sword chi and continued to fall. Zhuowen sighed softly and did not hold back anymore. He used the sword shaking the 9th heaven and the morning life and evening death consecutively. Only then did he manage to shatter the first meteorite. It had to be said that this glittering meteorite was really too hard. After Zhuowen managed to shatter the meteorite, the web between his thumb and index finger on his right hand faintly ruptured, and traces of blood flowed out. Although the ruptured web between his thumb and index finger quickly healed by itself, this also showed how terrifying this meteorite was. Immediately after, even more meteorites fell from the sky. Zhuowen couldn't deal with so many meteorites in a short period of time, so he used his movement technique to dodge all the meteorites that were falling down. But, to his disbelief, the meteorites that he dodged actually turned around and continued to chase after him. Zhuowen smiled bitterly. He knew that this calamity was very targeted at him and did not give him a chance to escape at all. Zhuowen used one divine ability after another, shattering meteorites one after another. However, he also became more and more miserable, and the injuries on his body began to become more and more serious. When the last meteorite was about to hit Zhuowen, the latter suddenly felt an indescribable sense of danger. He suddenly slashed behind him with his sword, only to see an arrow formed by rolling demonic chi was directly shattered by him. The timing and angle of the arrow were extremely tricky, forcing Zhuowen to turn around to defend himself. However, this also left him no extra time to defend against the meteorite in front of him. Meteorite stone charged forward without slowing down and crashed heavily in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen only had time to summon all of his divine power to cover the surface of his body before the meteorite slammed into him. He was suppressed by the meteorite and slammed into the ground. An earth-shaking explosion resounded between heaven and earth. In the center of the abyssal bone wasteland, a glittering meteorite stood erect on the wasteland like a mountain. Zhuowen was suppressed by this huge meteorite at the bottom. Outside the black bone wasteland, outside the range of the calamity, several figures appeared. Mo Lan of the Limitless Demon sect slowly withdrew his right hand. The surging demonic chi in his right hand was slowly sucked back into his body as a proud look appeared in his eyes. Brother Mo Lan, your timing is perfect. Doku of the Beacon Fire Academy smiled and complimented him a little. It was just a small trick. I just don't know if this Zhuowen is already dead. Mo Lan shook her head and said indifferently. This kid's great calamity of heaven and earth is really not simple. The power of the meteorite just now was extraordinary. Even if an expert of the great calamity of heaven and earth was hit head-on, he would die on the spot, let alone this kid who has yet to complete the great calamity of heaven and earth. Yu of the three divine prisons shook his head and said, Everyone else nodded inwardly. They also didn't think that Zhuowen was still alive. It turns out that this kid can't even withstand a single blow. It's a waste for us to mobilize so many people. It's really a waste of talent, Shu Da of the Five Immortals Divine Sect said gloomily. No. Look, the calamity hasn't dispersed yet. This means that the person undergoing the great calamity of heaven and earth is not dead yet. Suddenly, the Buddhist sect's expert looked at the abyssal bone wasteland and said in surprise, Everyone. They quickly looked over and found that the calamity energy in the black holes above the abyssal bone wasteland had not disappeared. Instead, it had begun to brew a new wave of calamity. Boom! Boom! With a loud explosion, the mountain-like meteorite in the center of the abyssal bone wasteland seemed to have been hit by an extremely powerful energy and shattered into countless pieces and powder. A rather wretched figure slowly floated above the wasteland. He was Zhuowen. Zhuowen's gaze was malicious. He looked at the edge of the abyssal bone wasteland and saw a large number of experts. He also saw 7 figures standing in front of the crowd. Finally, his gaze locked onto Mo Lan of the Limitless Demon Sect. He knew that the arrow with surging demonic chi was shot by Mo Lan. Your Limitless Demon Sect dares to attack me? Wen looked at Mo Lan and questioned him. Among the 7 forces, only the genius of the Limitless Demon Sect, Black Lotus, was spared. Most of the credit was due to Zhuowen's mercy. He thought that after Black Lotus left, he would be able to persuade Mo Lan not to go against Zhuowen. He didn't expect that Mo Lan would still come and be the first to attack him. Humph. Black Lotus was deceived by your flowery words. Do you think that I don't know? Today, I am here to kill you and let Black Lotus regain his sanity, Mo Lan said sarcastically. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with killing intent. However, he suppressed it and looked at the rest of the people. Everyone, are you looking for the wrong person? I don't know any of you. Why are you looking for me? Zhuowen asked coldly. He. Why are you asking when you already know the answer? You killed our juniors in the Black Gold Mountain range. Do you think that we will let this matter rest and leave just like that? We are here to seek an explanation for our juniors. Of course, if there is no explanation, you can pay with your life. Many experts spoke one after another. Their eyes were filled with murderous intent as they looked at Zhuowen. However, Zhuowen's senses were very sharp. From the killing intent in their eyes, he could see the greed in their eyes. This group of people did not come to kill him just for revenge. The third wave of calamity tribulation was coming. These experts would definitely take the opportunity to interfere with his calamity tribulation. This would increase the difficulty of his calamity tribulation. Zhuowen knew that he had to buy some time. Otherwise, the upcoming calamity tribulation would be extremely dangerous for him. Everyone, you should know that I am forced to do this. All of this was caused by the orders of the 7 Castellans. If it were not for the orders of the 7 Castellans, I would not have become the target of public criticism and stand against the other contestant. If it were not for the orders of the 7 Castellans, your juniors would not have died in the Black Gold Mountain range. Now, all of you are actually being used by others. I think that all of you are very smart. You don't look like fools who will be manipulated by others. After Wen's words, some of the people outside the Black Bone Wasteland came to their senses. Many of the people inside were already filled with rage. Therefore, they did not think too much and just followed the crowd to shout and kill Zhuowen. Of course, there were more people who did not fall for Zhuowen's trick. Their original intention was not just to seek revenge for their juniors. Zhuowen, of course we know what you are saying, however, when you were the target of public criticism, you did not have to be so ruthless. Was it so difficult to spare our juniors' lives? Doku from Fenghua Academy questioned Wen. Zhuowen sneered. The situation at that time was already at the stage of life and death. If he had been merciful, it was very likely that he would have been killed. In fact, he, Zhuowen, was the real victim. Now, this Doku actually questioned him why he did not show mercy at that time. When facing an enemy who wanted to kill him, he still had to show mercy. What kind of bullsh*t logic was that? Chapter 4289. Zhuowen, there's no need to stall for time. Today. Even if you don't die, you will die. Everyone, his next calamity is about to begin. Use your long-range attacks and aim at him together. He was a smart person. With a glance, he could tell that Zhuowen was stalling for time and unceremoniously exposed Zhuowen. Sensing the unfriendly gazes from the surroundings, Zhuowen's face darkened. It seemed that whatever he said was useless. This kid deserves to die. Let's kill him first. Someone shouted, and then some people started to attack. This sentence was like a fuse that completely ignited everyone's emotions. In an instant, everyone launched their own attacks. Only streaks of multicolored and terrifying attacks swept over from the distance. Like resplendent flowing flames, they tore through the air and greeted Zhuowen's body. You forced me to do this. Zhuowen took a deep breath. Sensing the third wave of calamity that was about to arrive in the sky, his eyes calmed down. Zhuowen formed a seal with both hands, and then his entire body quickly melted, turning into a pool of invisible water that merged into the depths of the black bone wasteland. Secret art, water escape. Boom, boom, boom. The moment Zhuowen used the secret art, water escape, everyone's densely packed attacks arrived on time. Intense sounds of breaking through the air continuously resounded in the surroundings. In the blink of an eye, Zhuowen's body was bombarded by all kinds of energy. In the center of the black bone wasteland, a terrifying light was set off, shooting straight into the clouds. Following that was a huge explosion and a huge sound of the earth cracking. Although, it was said that everyone had not used their full strength and was only using ordinary attacks, but with so many people, and all of them were at least experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth, their combined attacks were truly powerful and terrifying. The experts from the 7 great forces stood at the front of the crowd, sneering as they watched the scene unfold in the black bone wasteland. With so many people joining forces to attack, this kid should not be able to resist at all. He should be about to die. Shu Da of the 5 Immortals Divine Sect said with a faint smile. Sinusku frowned slightly. He glanced at the many frightening large black holes in the sky above the black bone wasteland. An ominous feeling rose in his heart when he discovered that these black holes did not disappear. Instead, the energy brewing within them became more and more frightening. The black hole in front of us seems to be moving towards us. Am I hallucinating? The evil spirit of the 3rd prison of God stared at the black hole in the sky and couldn't help but exclaim. Everyone came to their senses. Sure enough, they found that the terrifying black hole was moving toward them at an extremely fast speed. Not good, retreat. As expected, that Zhuowen won't die so easily. He's moving towards us. He wants to drag us into his calamity, Do said. Nock immediately understood. Without even thinking, he quickly retreated. The moment Do Gong retreated, Shu Da, EU, Mo Lan, and the other experts of the 7 major forces also retreated rapidly, retreating thousands of miles away. Do Ku, Shu Da, and the other 6 people were all astute. They retreated in time, but the rest of the people reacted half a beat slower. Dang, after Do Ku and the others had retreated thousands of miles away, they finally reacted. They wanted to follow Do Ku and the others, but it was already too late. Because behind them, a pool of invisible water gushed out from the depths of the ground and turned into a human figure. While this figure happened to stand in front of everyone, cutting off their path of retreat. Zhuowen. Looking at the young man in front of them, who had a cold smile on his face, everyone was shocked. They didn't know how this young man had silently circled behind them. Rumble. All of a sudden, an endless flood poured down from the sky. Many experts present were swept away by the flood and screamed miserably. They finally came to their senses. The numerous black holes that were originally above the center of the abyssal bone wasteland had now appeared above their heads along with Zhuowen. Black inside the cave, the flood came wave after wave. The water wasn't transparent, but silvery white. It looked like mercury and was extremely corrosive. Flood. The water flooded the Golden Mountain. Many experts who were only at the early stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe were submerged by the terrifying flood. They didn't even have time to scream before they were corroded to nothing. While those who were at the middle stage of the Great Tribulation of Universe and above had activated their world of universe in time to protect themselves. This was why they weren't directly corroded by the terrifying flood and died. Clang. However, this flood was definitely not simple. As the silver-white water continued to surge out, its corrosiveness became more and more terrifying. The world of universe of the cultivators at the middle and late stages of the Great Tribulation of Universe began to be corroded and showed signs of collapse. Zhuo Wen, on the other hand, had a serious look in his eyes. Numerous stars revolved around him, forming an indestructible astral domain that resisted the terrifying silver-white flood around him. However, although his star domain was powerful, it couldn't withstand the impact of the terrifying flood. The stars were constantly corroded and shattered. Following as time passed, his star completely shattered, and he could only summon 4 strands of Soul Sword Intent to form a powerful Soul Sword Intent defense around him. Zhuo the Soul Sword Intent released by Wen was at the peak of the Great Tribulation of Universe. It barely blocked the impact of the surrounding flood. While only then did Zhuowen realize that there were only a dozen or so cultivators left out of the originally large number of cultivators attacking him. These dozen or so people were all at the peak of the Great Tribulation of Universe. They were struggling to resist the terrifying corrosiveness of the flood. As for the cultivators below the peak of the Great Tribulation of Universe, they had basically been washed away by the flood to the point that not even their bones remained. Only therefore, these surviving peak experts of the great calamity of heaven and earth all revealed terrified expressions. Is this really the Great Tribulation of Universe? Why is it so terrifying that it can even kill cultivators of the Great Tribulation of Universe? This guy is a freak, right? How can the Great Tribulation of Universe be so terrifying? The peak experts who were bitterly enduring the Great Tribulation of Universe looked at Zhuowen as if they had seen a ghost. Moreover, they tried their best to stay away from Zhuowen, this fiend. They had all experienced the Great Tribulation of Universe. Although they had narrowly escaped death during the tribulation, no matter how powerful the Great Tribulation of Universe energy was, it was very difficult for it to pose too much of a threat to experts who had already advanced to the Great Tribulation of Universe. However, Zhuowen's Great Tribulation of Universe was too special and powerful. It actually swept through a group of experts of the Great Tribulation of Universe. Even these old fellows who had cultivated to the peak of the Great Tribulation of Universe could only barely resist it. Zhuowen, you little bastard. If you want to transcend the tribulation, then transcend the tribulation. Why did you have to drag us in, you bastard? These survivors began to curse Zhuowen. The reason why they had ended up like this was all thanks to Zhuowen. I tried to persuade you to leave, but you didn't listen at all. Instead, you wanted to kill me. Since that's the case, I naturally have to let you have a good taste of my tribulation. It's just a pity that there are still some fish that escaped the net. As he spoke, he couldn't help but glance thousands of miles away. His face was gloomy as he looked at Do Ku, Shu Da, and the other 7 people. If he could drag all 7 of them into his tribulation, Zhuowen would be able to borrow the power of the Great Tribulation of Universe to easily kill these people in a short period of time. However, these 7 people were too cautious. Chapter 4290. Crash. Crash. At the same time, another magma-like golden-red flood poured down from the black hole in the sky. Clang. When the golden-red water fused with the silver-white water, its corrosiveness became even more terrifying. The dozen or so heaven and earth great calamity peak experts who were still barely holding on naturally felt the corrosiveness of the surrounding flood become even stronger. Their universe world was being devoured at an extremely fast speed and was constantly shrinking. On the other hand, The four-sword intents around Zhuowen started to dim more and more. Zhuowen snorted coldly and took out 4 more powerful divine soul sword intents. They were spread out in 4 different directions. He was surrounded by 8 divine soul sword intents, barely holding on. And the rest of the dozen or so heaven and earth great calamity peak experts were completely submerged by the overwhelming flood amidst their unwilling roars. The entire world was filled with the ear-piercing sizzling sound of something being corroded. In the end, these dozen or so heaven and earth great calamity peak experts were destroyed in body and soul under the flood. Zhuowenzi was struggling to resist the increasingly terrifying flood while paying attention to Doku, Shu Da, and the other 7 who were still glaring at him like tigers watching their prey thousands of miles away. No wonder so many geniuses in the Golden Crow mountain range were all killed by this child. This child is truly not simple. Kowtow's gaze became extremely serious. Zhuowen had appeared behind everyone without a sound, which had really surprised him. Even the 7 of them, who had the highest cultivation bases, were unable to sense when Zhuowen had appeared behind them. This child has mastered many powerful secret techniques. I'm afraid he must have obtained them from the treasure trove of the 7 emotions 6 desires Saint Lord. Moreover, his growth speed is extremely fast. This child absolutely cannot stay here for long, Mo Lan suddenly said. Doku, Shu Da, and the others also nodded, although Zhuowen's current cultivation was far inferior to theirs. But they could clearly feel the immense threat from Zhuowen's body. They had to get rid of this child. Doku, pay attention to this child's movements at all times. Once he uses the secret technique again to teleport to us, inform us immediately. As for the remaining 6 of us, we'll interfere with this kid from the outside. We must make sure that you can't successfully transcend the tribulation. The killing intent in Mo Lan's eyes was boiling. Zhuowen's potential shocked him, and he was even a little afraid. He in his mind, the words that Black Lotus had said to him before involuntarily echoed, which made him more determined to kill Zhuowen. Good. Leave the surveillance work to me. The 6 of you go. Doku nodded. Demonlan was very straightforward. As soon as Dokung agreed, he pointed at the void with his right hand. Rolling demonic chi rushed out and formed a powerful black arrow. Each arrow hit Zhuowen's vital points. With a flick of his finger, numerous strands of sword chi shot out through the air. Buddha Zong, on the other hand, chanted the name of Buddha. Just like the Buddha shadow, he had a compassionate look on his face, but his actions were extremely ruthless. He blasted out a palm, and a golden palm print soared into the sky like a mountain, then fell towards Zhuowen's head. Quan Ri of the Water Moon Fantasy House was a beautiful Taoist nun. Seeing that the rest of the people had made their moves, she sighed in her heart and waved the horsetail whisk in her hand. Terrifying wind blades swept out. Remaining Nai Yu of the Third Prison of the Gods and Liu Qingchen of the Moon-Chopping Sacred Pavilion were not willing to be left behind. They also used their own means. Terrifying attacks also shot out through the air, shaking the heavens and the earth. Boom! At the center of the flood, Zhuowen was as still as a mountain. The 8 divine soul sword essences around him flashed with sharp light, protecting him in the center and resisting the raging flood. Have they still made their moves? Wen's eyes were cold. He naturally noticed the 6 terrifying attacks flying toward him. None in desperation, he had to divert his attention and release the 6 divine soul sword essences again. They shot out and blocked the attacks of Mo Lan, Shu Da, and the rest. It was because of this distraction that the power of the surging flood made him groan and involuntarily spit out a large mouthful of blood. Hey! This boy's divine soul is not ordinary. He can actually resist the attacks of the 6 of you. Doku's eyes were sharp. He was surprised to see that the attacks of Mo Lan and the rest were all blocked by the divine soul sword essences. His divine soul has probably reached the early stage of the cosmic Dharma form. Look at the surface of the 6 divine soul sword essences, they are burning with the Dharma form fire. Our attacks all carry the Dharma form fire, and the only way to resist the power of the Dharma form fire is to use the Dharma form fire itself or a higher level of energy, Liu Qingchen interrupted. F***ck. He has only undergone the ancient star transformation, and he already has the divine soul power of the cosmic Dharma form. No wonder this guy can kill so many geniuses unscathed. Nayu said in horror. Stop talking nonsense and continue to attack. This boy's great tribulation of heaven and earth is very terrifying. Coupled with our interference, his chances of survival are very small, Doku urged the other 6. Molan and the rest were not annoyed. Doku was right. Zhuoan was a great threat, and they naturally needed to get rid of him as soon as possible. A new round of attacks swept out, and the target was Zhuoan every time. The pressure on Zhuoan also increased. He had to resist the great tribulation of heaven and earth while diverting his attention to resist the attacks of Molan and the rest. This made him very passive. As time passed, Zhuoan's tribulation became more and more terrifying. All kinds of tribulations came one after another in an endless stream. Even the sky and earth changed color. While Zhuoan's condition was very bad. His body was covered in wounds, and his face was pale and bloodless. He looked very dispirited. This should be the last tribulation. As long as I survive this tribulation, I will be able to successfully advance to the great tribulation of heaven and earth. Wen muttered to himself. He adjusted his condition to the best and began to face the final tribulation. Boom. Boom. God. The black holes in the sky began to shrink slowly. They shrank from infinitely large to infinitely small. When they finally became as small as an eyeball, they stopped shrinking. Then, those small black holes shot out terrifying black rays of light. This black rays of light filled the air and shot down from the sky in a crisscross pattern. Their target was Zhuoan. Zhuoan mobilized all the energy in his body and looked sharply at the many black rays of light that were approaching him. He could clearly feel the terrifying energy fluctuations contained within these descending black rays of light. If he was careless, he might very well die in the last black ray of light. One after another, Zhuoan released his soul sword intent and arranged them above him, forming a sword-shaped defense. At this moment, Zhuoan did not dare to hold back at all. The soul sword essences that he released were all at the mid-stage of the Dharma phase of the universe. His face was very pale. It was still a little difficult for him to condense so many soul sword essences at once. At the moment when the two came into contact, Molan and the others also saw this opportunity. They all released their respective Dharma phases. Even Doku gave up his surveillance and joined in the siege. 7. This Dharma phase of the universe seemed to be connected to the heavens and the earth. Attack! Molan shouted. His huge Dharma phase of the universe held a big bow condensed by devil chi. Then, he drew the bow, narked the arrow, and released it. The huge black arrow pierced through the sky and shot directly at Zhuoan's head. His 6 other Dharma phases of the universe condensed by the other 6 also displayed their magical powers and used their most powerful long-range attacks. 7. This attack of different brilliance came from all directions, leaving behind a dazzling and astonishing trajectory in the void. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.